don't think you can take him here.
Who is right?
Can they, how to turn
We
it?
have 6. We gotta move down again.
Hang on, Dave just gave me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Today, redo
He
the,
cannot hear me, I can hear you.
Graham isn't
So
here.
you can,
Councilmember
Yeah.
Brown.
Linton isn't here.
okay, so Graham
but I can
isn't,
hear you.
which means
It's a sound
Peacock should
check,
be
1, 2,
right
3.
there.
I got you. Okay, yeah, because that's what I was thinking.
You're gonna
It's
listen
one
through
way.
here? Okay, so you.
Saida, can you see the name tag? Is Malcolm Graham's tag yet?
Pro Tem.
Okay, so we just wear this when they start speaking.
No, he's not here tonight. So is Edward Peacock's right there? Okay, who's
Can
right
we
here?
get her to?
Okay, that's what I thought. We gotta move. We gotta
Who
move.
has a hearing aid?
He's not talking.
I'm good.
I asked her, but she's.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started with our meeting this evening, June 16th, 2025. It's our zoning meeting this evening. Welcome, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. And before I do so, we will start with introductions, and let's start with City Clerk.
Billy Tons, Deputy City Clerk.
Good evening, Buenas noches, Dimple Ajmera at large.
Good evening. Thanks for being here today. Tijuana Brown, Charlotte City Council, District 3.
Good evening, I'm Renee Johnson, and I'm honored to represent District 4.
Good evening, everyone. James Mitchell, City Council at Large, and a special shout out to my lovely queen. We'll be celebrating our 13th wedding anniversary tonight. Love you, man. Impressive.
Allison Craig, Assistant City Manager.
Good evening, and welcome to District 1. Dante Anderson, Mayor Pro Tem, District 1.
Ed Driggs, District 7.
Good evening, Luana Mayfield, Council Member at Large.
Terry Hagler Gray, Senior Assistant City Attorney.
Fantastic. Okay, so we will begin our meeting with an invocation, as we always do, as an expression and inspiration, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation by a council member is intended to underscore our proceedings, and we celebrate the religious diversity of our community, including those without a religious faith. And tonight, Councilmember Mayfield will provide our invocation.
Thank you. For those that wish, please bow your heads. Let us take a moment of stillness. Eternal Spirit of justice and peace, we gather today with heavy hearts and steadfast purpose. As stewards of our community, we ask for guidance rooted in wisdom, humility, and compassion. In a time when our nation wrestles with division, uncertainty, and deep sorrow, help us lead with clarity, courage, and grace. We pause to honor the life and service of Representative Melissa Hortman and her beloved husband. May their memories be a blessing and their legacy of public service inspire us to uphold the values of empathy, integrity, and dedication to the common good. Comfort all who mourn across this nation, those who have lost ones to violence, injustice, illness, or despair. Remind us that every decision we make here today impacts real lives. May we listen deeply, speak kindly, and act boldly for the sake of those we represent. Let our deliberations reflect the dignity of our calling and the diverse hopes of our community. Ashe and Amen.
Thank you. If you're able to join us, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, justice for all.
Mayor Pro Tem, can we do a check?
Where y'all
to
going
make sure
tonight?
the interpreter is interpreting?
Where y'all going tonight?
It's not going to be.
Go through the decisions and then we'll hit a quick pause and make sure we're all.
So we begin our zoning meetings with an explanation of the zoning process. And the process begins with applications submitted to planning staff for review. Cases of two types are on the agenda. We have decisions and we have hearings. Decisions on cases for which a public hearing was previously held, therefore there are no further public comment. And for hearings, anyone wishing to speak is asked to see our clerk before the start of that particular hearing. Staff will provide a presentation without a time limit, and the petitioner, that is those who are in favor, will receive 3 minutes combined to present the case, unless one of two scenarios exist. One is if there's opposition signed up to speak, or if staff is in opposition, the petitioner will receive 10 minutes, the opponent will receive 10 minutes combined, and a petitioner will receive a 2-minute rebuttal. If no one is opposed or signed up to speak, staff will provide their short presentation, and the public hearing will be closed, and we'll move on to the next public hearing. Petitions go to the Zoning Committee of Planning Commission for review and recommendation. And at this time, I'd like to pass it over to Chair Blumenthal so he can introduce his committee.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Council. My name's Andrew Blumenthal. It is my pleasure to serve as the chairman of the Zoning Committee of the Planning Commission. Please allow me to introduce my fellow committee members. Starting immediately to my left, we have Commissioners Teresa McDonald, Aaron Shaw, Robin Stewart, Shauna Neely, and Rick Winokur. The Zoning Committee will next meet, actually not until Tuesday, August 5th at 5:30 p.m. At that meeting, the Zoning Committee will discuss and make recommendations on the petitions that have public hearings this evening. The public is welcome to attend that meeting. However, please note that it is not a continuation of any of the public hearings that are being held here tonight. Prior to that meeting, you are welcome to contact us to provide input. You can find contact information as well as information on each petition on the city's website at charlotteplanning.org. Thank you again, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chair Blumenthal. And so we will now proceed with our consent agenda items. Rezoning petition items 3 through 7 may be considered in one motion, except for those items pulled by a council member. Please note that these petitions meet the following criteria. They've had no public opposition to the petition at the hearing. Staff recommends the approval, the Zoning Committee recommends the approval, and there were no changes after the Zoning Committee's recommendation. Are there any consent agenda items council would like to pull for separate vote or question? Ms. Mayfield, followed by Ms. Johnson.
Excuse me, 5 and 6 for separate vote.
5 and 6 for separate vote. Ms. Johnson.
Point of order, Mayor Pro Tem. I assured the residents back in April when I met with them that there would be an interpreter here. So I know we're going on with the meeting and we plan to have an interpreter for the specific petition, but I wanted you all to know, I mean, I would have hoped the interpreter would be able to interpret so you all could be, hear what's going on. But let me assure you that someone is here to interpret the petition. So I apologize.
Yes, Ms. Johnson, someone will be able to provide simultaneous interpretation during the actual hearing for the petition. Thank you. Did you have any items you'd like to pull?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Yes,
So,
thank you. I just wanted to,
Ms. Ajmer, did
Yes,
you have a question around the consent items?
no, actually, I wanted to follow up on Councilwoman Johnson. Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson, for making this possible, especially interpreting. I know as part of our EEE committee, we wanted to make sure that our city services are being accessible. So I appreciate, because we did receive some calls and messages about that.
Thank you, Ms. Ajmera. So, Is there a motion to approve the following petitions and adopt the zoning committee statement of consistency for each of these petitions as they appear on our agenda this evening? And I will read all three of the petition numbers. Petition number 2025-010, petition number 2025-012, and petition number 2025-014. Is there a motion to approve?
So
and
moved.
adopt?
No, 018, because number 5 and number 6 is what I pulled out.
You pulled 5 and 6?
You pulled 5 and 6.
Okay. So, scratch 2025-014, and then we have 2025-018. So items number 3, 4, and 7. Is there a motion to approve and adopt?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? That vote is unanimous. So is there a motion to approve petition number 2025-014 by Pult Homes and adopt the zoning committee statement of consistency?
Move for approval. Second.
Thank you. There is a motion and a second. Any comment? Ms. Mayfield?
Thank you. I have concerns that even with the entitlement that was only for 293 trips, with this additional multifamily in this area, this proposed zoning could more than double that to almost just under 800 trips based on this 110 multifamily unit dwelling, as well as when we are talking about diversity in neighborhoods, we are seeing an increase of multifamily in some areas that is causing an impact, so I will not be supporting this project.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Any additional comment? Hearing none, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? Ms. Mayfield is opposed. Is there a motion to approve petition number 2025-017 and adopt the zoning committee statement of consistency as it appears in our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any comment? Ms. Mayfield?
Thank you. This project is to approve a development that has interior privately owned roads. We are already seeing challenges across the city with who is responsible and conversations with HOA, which are out of our control and fall squarely in North Carolina General Assembly regarding who is responsible for maintaining these roads. So I have concern that opposed to, at the beginning, this being identified if it's going to be city road, i.e. public road with access, versus coming back later, a project being approved that is going to potentially create an undue burden on the residents.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Any additional comment? Hearing none, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? Ms. Mayfield is opposed. That concludes our consent decisions. We will move on to our non-consent decisions, and we will
Mayor
be...
Pro Tem?
Yes, I can't hear you,
Can't
Mr.
hear you,
Beck.
David.
Can we go into our deferrals? There were 2 deferrals that we need to address.
Yes, absolutely. So we have 2 deferral items this evening. Item number 8, petition number 2025-015, and item number 14, petition number 2025-021. These can be deferred all in one motion. Is there a motion to defer petition item number 8 and petition item number 14 as it appears in our agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any comment? Hearing none, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Pettin. So now we will move into our non-consent decisions, and we will begin with item number 9. Is there a motion to approve the petition number 2025-047 and adopt the zoning committee's statement of consistency as it appears in our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any comment?
I'll just,
Mr. Driggs?
this is our text amendments, right?
That's correct. This is our
I'm
text.
blind here, my
Oh, I'm
computer's not
sorry.
working. So these are text amendments that they're going to occur on a 6-monthly basis. I think we're all familiar with that. So we've talked through them. There are a number of types of text amendment related to kind of cleanup or to adjustments that are being made as a result of our experience. This will be a continuing process. The UDO is a living document, and we can expect to see another update in 6 months, I believe. Anyway, I supported it. I hope everybody else will, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Driggs. Any additional comments? Hearing none, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? That is unanimous. We will move on to agenda item number 10. And we have some changes from item number 10. Mr. Pettin, I'll pass it over to you.
Great, thank you. Yes, item number 10 did have some changes after zoning committee. This is for petition 2023-074. The following changes were made. They did commit to a minimum of 4 duplexes to be constructed in development area A. Solid waste service areas were moved away from property lines adjacent to the neighborhood one place type. Condition added that no driveways to individual dwellings would be constructed on Country Lane in development area B. And also a double yellow center line will be striped on Country Lane from the intersection of Providence to the intersection of Genevieve Court. These are changes that they worked with the community, and staff believes that they are minor, do not warrant additional review, do not change the material nature of the project. We're happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Pettin. Is there a motion that the changes should not go back to the zoning committee?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and second. Any comment? Hearing none, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. Is there a motion to approve petition number 2023-074 and adopt the zoning committee's statement of consistency as our own?
Oh, I was going to get to the district rep. So move. So move.
Second.
Riggs go.
He's having some technical challenges.
gotcha.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Oh, here he comes.
Hearing none, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. We will move on to item number 11. And again, Mr. Pettin, there have been some changes, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So petition 2024-124 also had changes after zoning committee. The changes that were made were that a large row of maturing evergreen trees were added along the rear parking and loading area that would be adjacent to the 100-foot undisturbed buffer and the 100-foot Class A landscape yard. Also added that lighting standards would limit height of that lighting to 30 feet and required all freestanding lights to be fully capped, shielded, and downwardly directed, and prohibiting wall pack type lighting. These were items that were, again, coordinated with in conversations with the community from our understanding and do not change the material nature of the project. Staff believes they're minor and do not warrant additional review by the zoning committee. Thank you.
Thank
I have
you.
a question for Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Patton, do any of those changes actually address any of the concerns that came from the community in regards to this petition?
I know there were some conversations about, how far the uses were, some screening. I know that came up at some point. I don't know if they address every material item that they had. The petitioner or the members of the community probably be better to answer that. We got these changes presented to us following some of those conversations, so our information is that these were things that they had asked for that would satisfy some of their concerns. But again, that'd probably be a better question for the petitioner.
So based on the information that you have, you did mention, because we can barely hear you, so I want to confirm, did they expand the current 100-foot buffer zone?
They added a large row of maturing evergreen trees, basically where that buffer zone would kind of start where the parking areas are and the loading areas. So it would be that undisturbed row of large maturing trees and then the buffer itself beyond that.
So the answer is they did add to it.
They did add to it, yes.
Did they reduce the building footprint?
Not that I'm aware of. No, that would have been a
Thank
change we would have captured as well.
Thank you.
That's mine. Thank you. Any additional question or comment?
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I have been working extensively with the community, been out there numerous of times with Mr. Norman Phillips. And if Ms. Carmichael, can you come down, please?
Hang on, is this a question? Yeah, this is, hang on, Ms. Brown. We're voting as to whether or not we want to send this petition back to the zoning committee because there were changes after the zoning committee's
Okay, I
meeting.
got
So unfortunately, we can't have the gentleman come
Okay,
down.
all right, no problem.
But once we vote on that, then we can have deliberation
Okay.
on the actual item. Okay? Any additional questions about sending this particular item back to the zoning after changes?
No.
Okay? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. There was Mr.
I'm so moving to take it.
Yeah, I second it.
You have it? Okay. All right, all in favor to not send this item back to the zoning committee after changes, please raise hands. Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. Now, is there a motion to approve and adopt petition number 2024-124 and adopt the zoning committee's statement of consistency as it appears in our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any comment?
Yes.
So, Ms. Brown, would you like to have a comment? However, you can't call anyone to the podium.
Can't call him, but it's okay. I'll make the
Ms.
comment for
Hagler-Gray,
you.
we want to make sure we're following the proper rules.
Ms. Brown, you can actually ask a specific question of Mr. Carmichael. You can't reopen the public hearing, but if there's a particular question that you have
I'll
for
just
him-
make comments.
You can comment.
I can comment.
You can comment, and you can ask him a specific
I
question.
don't need to ask him anything. I can just comment on the work that I've done with the petitioner
The
and
floor
Morris.
is yours, Ms. Brown.
Yes, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I don't need to ask Mr. Carmichael anything. I've worked with Morris Park 2 team forever, and Mr. Carmichael has been very diligent. Morris Park 2 is a community that I favor. It's a very nice community. They really didn't want any development at all in their neighborhood, and I understand that, development is going to continue to happen in all of the city of Charlotte. It just depends on the nature of it. I commend this petition, Aviation Matters, because Mr. Carmichael came out several times being willing to meet with the petitioners, and they didn't want, the neighborhood didn't want the petitioners out there, but he's done everything he could possibly do to answer all of their concerns, all of the questions that they had, even being willing to, even after tonight, to go back and to meet with them, and he's made that commitment to me. I was out all last week. It was my birthday. I deserve a vacation, right? And so we were working really hard behind the scenes with this. I've been out on the ground. I've walked in the woods. I've seen all of the pinpoints. I've seen the tree canopies. I've seen the stormwater work. I really worked hard on this petition. So not an easy decision, but a fair decision. And I'm about fairness. And so for me, I'm going to move forward with it because of all the work that I put in, the zoning team, staff recommendation, and then just the petition itself, just allowing and being very flexible with coming back and forth. It's like a tug of war. So it's a fair decision for me, not an easy decision, but it's a fair decision, so I'm going to move forward with it. So thank you, Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, and thank you for the work that you've done on this particular petition. Are there any additional comments? Hearing none, all in favor to approve and adopt agenda item number 12, please raise hands. Any opposed? Ms. Mayfield is opposed. Okay, we will move on to, I'm sorry, that was petition number 11.
Item 11, yes.
Yeah, which we read in the actual minutes. We will move on to agenda item number 12. Is there a motion to approve the petition number 2025-005 and adopt the zoning committee statement of consistency as it approves in our agenda?
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a movement and a second. Any comment? Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So this is in District 2, but it's very close to District 4, and I remember when this petition was first filed, I think the developer might have met with me. But I'm very familiar with this area, and if you recall last month, this was the petition that we had shared some concerns because it was a conventional versus a conditional. This is right in the middle of a subdivision. I believe, if I'm correct, that it's on the dead end of a residential street. Is that right, Mr. Patton?
Yeah, it is at the end of, let me get an idea of the road name again.
So it's in a residential neighborhood. There
Yes,
was opposition.
you're correct.
Right, there was opposition from the residents. We don't have a lot of information about what this will be. Furthermore, it's being rezoned to a cottage court overlay. And Mr. Patton, can you give me a little information about cottage court overlays?
Sure, yeah. The cottage court overlay is a development option in our neighborhood 1 districts. It is really an option that would allow for smaller lot sizes, smaller unit types. There is a cap of how many total units could be in a project. That would be 30. It doesn't mean that 30 units will always be built. It depends on site constraints and other things. But the goal of the cottage court overlay is to allow for, again, some of those smaller lot options. All the units are to be comprised around common open space, so they all front on some type of open space rather than, fronting on a road or something else. So it's a bit of a trade-off in design to work with these smaller sites to, get some additional units, but again, build all that around common open space and, a uniform unit type.
When we talked about it earlier, did you use the word like innovative or creative or?
Yeah, it allows some flexibility and creativity and again, those lot size standards.
So because there was neighborhood opposition, because this is an existing neighborhood, and because this is a conventional versus conditional, we just don't have enough information. So I won't be supporting it. I think 1.94 acres in a existing subdivision, I think we need a little more information other than to allow a creative or innovative or new type of rezoning. So I won't be supporting. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Ms. Mayfield, and then I have Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you. Mr. Patton, question for you. What you just mentioned is that the cottage court allows for creativity in the area. In our policy language, do we take into consideration the impact of current neighborhoods when we allow creativity? Because we can see examples. If you drive up 4th Street with homes that are much more modern than the neighborhood, they completely look outside. Do we take into consideration the impact of a neighborhood when we have language like that?
So the changes that you would primarily see that would be different than just an N1 district is the lot sizes. So even though it's zoned N1A and the lot size standard in N1A, let's say, I don't know off the top of my head, 60, 80 feet, you could shrink that down in a cottage court for smaller lot options, again, to make sure that then all those units are built around a common open space area so that when folks walk out the door, they're seeing green space, they're, built around that type of design standard. But building heights are all the same, so they can't be taller or, anything out of context with what's already allowed in N1. So 48 feet would be the building height. But the goal of the cottage court is to really maximize smaller unit types. So, units that could be 1,000 square feet or less to provide a housing type that maybe is more affordable, but doesn't trade some of those design standards and open space quality for a project. So we have some examples of the more historic contexts, like in Elizabeth, there's some on Hawthorne as you're getting right to the bridge. There's a really good example of one. They're townhomes and they all front on open space right before Bay Street. That's a really good example. And that's really the context of what the ordinance was built off of. We haven't seen a lot of projects to date under the cottage court. We've only had one rezoning approved so far. So I don't have any examples from the UDO to show you, but that is the context they're going for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I want to be sensitive because our colleague, Councilman Graham, is not here this evening. And so I guess, staff, I have a question. If it's not time sensitive, I want to be respectful of Councilmember Johnson's question as well, that we defer this until we have at least Councilman Graham here. This is his district, and so we can be fair to both parties. So when is our next zoning meeting?
I believe it is August 18th.
August 18th?
Yeah, we don't have any July meetings.
I would second that motion.
Yeah, I just think we got to be fair.
in the form of a substitute motion.
So I like to,
We don't
Yeah.
have any guidance.
It would have to be done in the form of a substitute
Okay.
motion.
so I'd like to make a substitute motion to defer item 2025-2025 to August 18th zoning meeting.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to, a substitute motion to defer this particular item into our next zoning meeting, which occurs in August.
And what we can do in the meantime as well is just try to get y'all some more information on the cottage court overlay, what it's intended to, to do in terms of, development outcomes, so you guys have that a little bit more clear in front of you for that decision in August.
That would be great, and if it could be a conditional rezoning.
Ms. Molina.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And just really quickly, just to, add on to what Councilman Mitchell said, I think it's important to note that, and I think that my colleague here, Ms. Johnson, has brought up some valid questions, that should be addressed. And I think withstanding the fact that, Councilman Graham's not here, it'd be good for him to be here and be able to get some, information from him on the work he's done, if any, what the sentiment of the neighbors and residents are. So that's one of the reasons why, I'm agreeing to continue the conversation and get those questions answered.
Thank you. Any additional comment on the substitute motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the substitute motion, raise hands. Any opposed? Ms. Mayfield is opposed. Okay, we will move on to agenda item number 13. And before we proceed, Mr. Pettin, I believe there are changes as well.
Yeah, this is our last item with changes. So this is for 2025-016 by Kingdom Development Partners, LLC. Two changes made after zoning committee. One note was added that a commitment would be made that a minimum of 30% of the multifamily attached dwelling units will be affordable and restricted to households earning 80% AMI or less for a period of not less than 15 years from the initial issuance of a certificate of occupancy. The other note that was added was that multifamily attached buildings adjacent to the neighborhood one place type or zoning will not exceed 3 stories in height or 48 feet. Staff believe those changes are minor. Are minor and do not warrant additional review by the zoning committee.
Thank you, Mr. Pettin. Is there,
Motion not to return to the zoning
Second.
committee.
thank you, there's a motion and a second. Any comment? Hearing none, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. Is there a motion to approve petition number 2025-1016 and adopt the zoning committee's statement of consistency as it appears in our agenda?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any comment? Hearing none, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? That is unanimous. And Mr. Pettin, I believe that concludes our decisions for the evening.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So we are going to transition into our hearings. And our very first hearing is item number 15. And if you could just give us a moment, we have provided simultaneous translation on this particular petition. So if you can just give us a moment or two, council members, please place your earphone in your ear and make sure the volume is up. So when we begin this, you'll be able to hear.
Marjorie doesn't know to do that.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I forgot.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure if we can find out from staff who's going to be doing the interpreting, and if we could maybe get like a test. So-
He's on.
Okay.
Yes, we've done the test.
Okay.
Gentlemen, raise your hand. He's right there. And then anything that we are saying back in the form of questions will be translated with the young lady at the top into Spanish. Okay? All right. So, any more questions before we begin? And please have grace with us. This is our very first time doing this process here in a zoning meeting, so there might be some curveball here, but we'll get through it.
Mayor Pro Tem, one more thing, and because it is our first time doing this, and we may have some challenges, we have allotted, or
Yes,
at your
ma'am.
discretion, council, we suggest that there be an accommodation of 15 minutes instead of 10 minutes when the opposition speakers take their time.
Yes, because there's some time for translation and just the understanding.
Yes.
We've decided for a reasonable accommodation shift, so when the opposition is speaking, they'll have 15 minutes instead of 10 minutes to speak. So, in aggregate, yes. Okay. Welcome, Mr. Peacock. Well, if you could get your earphone going here, you'll need it in just a minute. All right, we are on agenda item number 15, petition number 2024-127 by Wood Partners. The location is approximately 19.49 acres located on the west side of Prosperity Church Road along either side of Nada Park Circle and Butner Trail Lane, southeast of Benfield Road and District 4, Ms. Johnson's district. The current zoning is N1A, proposed zoning is N2C and NCCD. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to site design. And after staff's presentation, we have Ms. Grant and a number of others who may speak who will have 10 minutes to speak for this petition. And after that, we will have Yolanda Reyes. And if you, hopefully, for the opponents who I'm about to speak now, if you all can just be poised to come down once the time is up, that'll help us transition pretty quickly. But we have Yolanda Reyes, Yolanda Valentine, and Alejandro Otero, and Claudia Gomez, who are Spanish-speaking residents who are in opposition, as well as Lionel Chavez, Joseph Teague, and Jennifer Carranza, as well as Sonia Hernandez, Maria Alborain, and William Leasley. So it's quite a few of you who are in opposition. What I'd like to tell you is that you're going to have 15 minutes in aggregate all together. So there have to be some coordination of who's going to speak and passing off. So just make sure you're using those 15 minutes wisely. And then, of course, the petitioner will have a 2-minute rebuttal. I have a question from the clerk.
Correction, William is actually number 16. He'll be on the next.
Okay, William is number 16. Excellent, thank you. All right, Mr. Pettin, if you would go ahead, and Ms. Grant, if you would like to come up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so 2024-127, it's about 19 and a half acres located on the west side of Prosperity Church Road along either side of Nada Park Circle and Butner Trail Lane, southeast of Benfield Road. And as mentioned, the property is zoned Neighborhood 1A. The proposed zoning is N2C conditional as well as Neighborhood Center conditional, so N2C and NC conditional. The adopted place type for this property is Neighborhood 1, as recommended on the 2040 policy map. You can see we do have a community activity center just to the south of this property, as well as on the west side of this property also, or excuse me, the east side. The proposal is broken up into 2 development areas. The first development area for residential would be for up to 395 residential units across 2 of those development areas. Development area 1 would be multifamily attached units or townhomes. Development area 2 would permit any residential type allowed in N2C. There is a portion of this project that is also proposing non-residential uses. That's that area in red. That's along the east side or right side of the projects that you can see up on the screen. That is for up to 25,000 square feet of non-residential uses. That is considered Development Area 3. Prohibited uses in that area would include things like gas stations, auto repair, group homes, vehicle rental, self-storage, and similar intensive uses. There is a workforce housing commitment within this project, and that states that at least 5% of the units in Area 2 would be workforce housing, and they would be income restricted at no greater than 80% AMI for a minimum of 15 years. There is also open space and public parks being proposed to improve public park areas, each with at least 4 features, such as enhanced plantings, public arts or sculptures, specialty paving, shaded elements, seating, or interactive experiences. There's transportation improvements that are a part of this petition as well, improvements to access via Prosperity Church Road, Benfield Road, and Cardinal Point Road. It also delivers on some capital improvements like bike lanes, sidewalks, storm drainage, curb and gutter, and also a roundabout at Prosperity and Benfield. There is also 8-foot planting strips and 8-foot sidewalks along both major frontages. It does also extend Cardinal Point as a public street. That would be built to office and commercial standards, and that would connect directly to the activity center just to the south. Their network streets A and B would both be public as well. There are, again, bike lanes, buffered bike lanes on Benfield Road, and a 50-foot pedestrian zone at the main access, with also a sidewalk connection to the CNIP Greenway. There are design commitments and architectural commitments built into the proposal as well for those residential structures, as well as some of the design and site layout. As mentioned, staff does recommend approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to site design. It is inconsistent with the policy map recommendation for Neighborhood 1, but as it transitions out of that activity center and is immediately adjacent to it, it does provide direct access to those options for goods and services that are part of some of those goals of the 10-minute neighborhood. It's also within the Prosperity Village CNIP area, which will improve Prosperity Church Road between Old Ridge and Benfield to improve curb and gutter, sidewalks, storm drains, bicycle lanes, on-street parking, as well as that installation of the roundabout at Prosperity Church Road and Prosperity Ridge Road. Again, there are workforce housing commitments and other aspects of the petition that staff do believe make it, while inconsistent, do make it a project that staff, again, is recommending approval of upon resolution of those outstanding issues. So with that, we'll turn it over to the petitioner as well as the community, and we will take questions following both of those presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grant.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, members of the Zoning Committee. Bridget Grant, Land Use Consultant with Moran Van Allen. Pleased to be here this evening representing Wood Partners. I come before you with a number of petitions, and this is undoubtedly one of the more difficult ones we've had to navigate. We appreciate staff support, but we know we have a little bit more work to do on this one. The owner made the difficult decision to sell the property after 60 years. And though this does not come without its challenges, I think it's really important for us to clarify that with or without the rezoning, the mobile home operations are set to shutter on May 29th of 2026. And this aligns with some of the communication that was shared by the seller in May of 2024. That said, I'm here tonight on behalf of the petitioner who's seeking to buy the site and who understands the magnitude of this change and is willing to work with the residents as part of this rezoning on a transition plan over the next month or so. So nonetheless, I wanted to give you a little bit of that background before I step into some of the basics we typically share with you during the public hearing. As Dave mentioned, this is a 19.49 acre site in Prosperity Village. It is directly adjacent to the activity center. And when you look on the map, you can see there's a strong mix of a range of zoning types in this area that really speaks to the range of commercial uses as well as residential uses and density. We are right on the edge of the activity center, and it is not uncommon for areas like this to be considered for rezoning because of their proximity to resources, amenities, schools, and other desirable services. So again, in terms of the timeline, in May of 2024, the property owner, not the petitioner, notified the mobile home residents that they intended to cease operations. The site was put on the market for sale, and Wood Partners went under contract and filed a rezoning in October of 2024. In November of 2024, we sent out notices per the city's list for a community meeting, and in December of 2024, we had our community meeting and had about 21 attendees. There was a little bit of a pause in the process because we were working through the transportation analysis and confirming that we were meeting all of the requirements of the rezoning process related to site plan changes and transportation. In April of 2025, Councilmember Johnson was kind enough to host a follow-up community meeting specifically for the residents of Forest Park, so we could try to provide some clarity about what was going on in the process and confirm what the seller was anticipating in terms of next steps. When you look at the proposed site plan, I think Dave did a pretty good job of hitting the highlights. You can see the site is turned, but our site is bound by Prosperity Church Road, Benfield Road, and does offer the extension of Cardinal Point Drive through the site, which is something desirable when you're considering rezoning, is when we're extending our overall transportation network to provide relief. This gives you a little more detail and shows a little more of the open spaces. We're proposing up to 395 residential units. There's about 18 of those are townhomes. The remainder are apartments. And we do have 25,000 square feet of retail, restaurant, and personal service uses. This is intended to align with the goal of community activity centers and supporting the idea that we're creating 10-minute walkable visions in proximity to our activity centers. So when you look at the rezoning rationale and the plan benefits, strictly in terms of land use, this is located adjacent to an activity center with good proximity to schools, parks, and services. As Dave mentioned, we're approximate to I-485, within a fourth of a mile of the 52X bus stop. It's a proposed mix of residential uses that does provide a good transition between the activity center and the surrounding residential uses. It also increases the amount of housing availability in the area, provides an opportunity for additional retail services, and commits to a minimum of 5% of the multifamily stacked, offered at 80% AMI or below. I think it's, again, important to just close by saying that the petitioner and the property owner are committed to continue to work to ease this transition upon the sale of the mobile home park. And I know we have a lot of speakers signed up, so I'll go ahead and keep it short, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Okay. Yolanda Reyes, if you can come down to this podium here, as well as Yolanda Valentine, Alejandro Otero, and Claudia Gomez. And then we also have, if you're choosing to speak, Lionel Chavez, Joshua Teague, Jennifer Carranza, Sonia Hernandez, and Morea Alboran. If you would like to speak, please come down to the podium because we're all going to have 15 minutes in total.
So, Mayor Pro Tem, my wonder is, do we need someone to tell them those rules in Spanish? Where is the translator?
Yes.
Are you able to tell them that?
Yeah.
You just did? Okay. They have it in their ear as well?
Some of them do.
Okay, good.
The four Spanish-speaking ones.
Okay, good. Good. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, just
Moment.
the Teagues, were they speaking in favor?
Against. Teague, they're speaking against, is what I have.
No.
There's two.
Four.
Got the two for
Madam Clerk.
Grant.
Joshua Teague is
Teague
listed as
is for,
against.
Siegel is for.
We're on item number 15.
Yeah, there are
Yeah,
these
so there.
three people after Grant who got to
Teague.
speak within the 10 minutes.
And a Teague there. And one
They
for
weren't
one.
there.
You don't want them to?
They weren't going to speak.
Ms.
Yeah.
Grant, were the other three going to speak? Were the other three? No, all right, so we're good with that.
So all the names that I have read are speaking in opposition. We simply have four Spanish-speaking individuals, but the rest are English-speaking individuals,
She said he's
okay?
not gonna speak.
Ms. Johnson?
How many people have on headsets?
13.
13. 15. If they've requested a headset and they were available, they have them.
So they're quite a few people.
Okay. All right. We will get started with 15 minutes, and por favor, diga su nombre.
Oh, come on.
Hola, buenas noches, soy Yolanda Reyes. Yo vengo a oponerme que hagan el desarrollo porque hace 16 años que yo vivo ahí, he estado esforzándome, sacrificando todo lo que tengo para poder mantener mi casa bien. He estado activa con la comunidad cuando compartimos con los niños, cuando salen a jugar, viendo que estén bien, que no haya carros, que pasen tranquilamente. Estamos ahí ayudando a que la comunidad tenga un área bonita, con jardines, compartimos con los vecinos, nos cuidamos los unos a los otros. Hemos desarrollado un respeto y un ambiente de amabilidad, de confianza, de cuidado entre nosotros, desarrollando lo que ustedes dicen que son valores de una comunidad, valores de una ciudad. Nosotros estamos en desacuerdo con el desarrollo porque no nos habían avisado. O sea, nos dijeron, se tienen que ir, no nos dan otras alternativas. Nosotros hemos estado ahí esforzándonos por nuestras casas. Todo el desarrollo que ha llegado es de ahora. Nosotros cuando llegamos ahí no había departamentos, no había casas. Era lo más alejado que había de la ciudad. Por eso estamos en desacuerdo, porque los urbanizadores han hecho y han hecho y han hecho y han hecho y están cargando nuestras comunidades con mucha gente, con muchos lugares, que viene gente, pero no hay esa confianza. Todos entran a su departamento, a su casa y no se conocen. No hay una amistad, no hay una confianza de decir, aquí estamos para todos. Gracias.
Here, I'll put this.
Okay, there is 13 minutes left.
Ok. Hola, buenas tardes a todos.
Sí, ok.
Venimos a pedir de su apoyo para que no se apruebe el proyecto que quieren hacer en nuestra comunidad. Nosotros tenemos 20 años viviendo en ese lugar. Y nosotros hemos invertido mucho en ese lugar y hemos invertido más como unos 80 o 90 mil dólares. Todos nuestros ahorros ahí han estado, en nuestras paredes, en nuestros pisos, en nuestros jardines. Y pues nuestros hijos no se quieren mover de ahí, porque ahí tienen sus escuelas cerca, sus médicos. Mi esposo tiene su trabajo ahí cerca. Y prácticamente tenemos todos ahí. Y pues estamos muy bien con todos los vecinos. Somos un pueblo. Prácticamente nos conocemos todos. Hay buena amistad con todos, comunicación con todos, con los niños. Y es por eso que no nos queremos ir de esa comunidad. Y pues esperemos que pues nos apoyen y que no se apruebe ese proyecto y nos dejen ahí. Gracias.
Hola a todos, yo soy María Albarrán y yo vengo a que nos apoyen en este proyecto, porque si no nos apoyan nos dejan en la calle, como muchos de todos que vivimos ahí. Yo llevo 18 años viviendo allí en esa área de las trailas desde que tenía 6 años. Yo crecí allí, fui a la escuela, hice amigos, hice vecinos ahí con todos. Es un lugar muy bonito. Ahora yo tengo un hijo de 3 años y estoy esperando otro hijo. Y yo quisiera que mis hijos crecieran ahí, fueran a la escuela donde yo me gradué, donde yo crecí. Y es un lugar muy tranquilo que en otros lugares donde hay delincuencia, roban en los apartamentos. Y siento que si yo me saliera de allí no voy a encontrar otra tranquilidad para mis hijos como hay en las trailas. También yo soy hija mayor de mis papás, que son indocumentados, son inmigrantes de aquí, y no tienen como ellos poder sacar un crédito, una casa o un pago. Entonces ellos dependen de mí. No hace mucho también yo compré mi trailer hace 3 años. Le he invertido, le puse siding, piso y ahorita nos quieren sacar. Cosa que no me quiero ir porque para mí esa es mi casa ya. Yo no soy como yo no me creo que estoy pagando renta, al contrario, me siento ya dueña de esa traila. Mi hijo también se siente feliz ahí con los niños que juegan afuera. Y yo quiero que nos apoyen, para mí y toda la comunidad que están ahí en las trailas, para que nadie se quede sin su hogar, o traten de ayudarnos a buscar una forma para que nadie se quede en la calle. Y espero que tengamos el apoyo de ustedes.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Sonia Hernández y vengo a pedirles por favor que reconsideren en aprobar este proyecto porque ellos están planeando hacer nuevas casas, pero ¿qué pasa con todos los que vamos a quedar sin casa? A ellos no les importa que nos quedemos sin hogar, porque muchos pueden salirse y buscar otra casa, pero no todos contamos con el dinero. Todos hemos invertido en nuestras casas y para nosotros nunca pensamos salirnos de ahí. Todos tenemos nuestro dinero invertido, nuestros ahorros, nuestra vida en esas casas. No es justo que vengan y nos digan que nos tenemos que salir. En 2 años nadie va a ahorrar dinero para comprar una casa. Por favor, apóyenos.
Thank you. I just want to ask for your consideration. I've been living in the park almost 20 years.
State your name, sir. I'm sorry.
My name is Joshua Teague.
Thank you.
I've been living in the park for 20 years. I've found a home there. I found neighbors that I consider friends and family, and when times were hard, I could turn to them, neighbors like my friend Raul and Avencio. And when I needed their help, they were there. I consider them family. I don't want to leave the park. I want to stay with my family. Please vote no on this.
Good afternoon, committee, or council, sorry. My name is Leonel Landa Chavez. I'm 24. I have lived in the Forest Park area for close to 15 years. I come here today to speak for my family and for my community, and I hope to gain your support to vote no on the rezoning of the area. Renee, I want to give you a special thank you for responding to the emails and working on this since February. We as a committee are not against development, but we are against displacement. Not only is this a neighborhood, it's a whole community. Some have lived decades in their homes, the majority having families and family members in the neighborhood, and all of us have invested tens of thousands of dollars into our homes. We are homeowners. We can't afford to just leave it all behind. And we can't move the homes either because of the age of the home or the additions we made to the homes. And some because they are simply just older and have everything invested into their homes. Now, at risk of losing everything. Nowhere in the Charlotte area will we find $500 affordable housing, and apartments around the Forest Park area cost 3 times that just for a studio apartment. For over a year since being told that we may have to leave our homes, we were kept in the dark, being told that we would stay informed and that letters were being sent out, yet we never received them. And we were never given the option to do something about the rezoning. My mother and many of my neighbors are immigrants who work hard every day to provide for their families and now have something else to worry about besides being ripped away from their families. It feels unfair and unjust because we thought our representatives would protect us from situations like this. This place is my childhood. No other communities like ours. Help is given when it's needed. All we ask is to stay or at least give us options for our community, for all the time, money, and work that was put into our community. And to also protect us from predatory buyers who want to take advantage of the situation. So once again, I ask the council to please support us and to say no. Also, with all the developments in the area, there's an increase in traffic, an increase in crime. My sister lives in some apartments really close to where we live, and they have stolen her car before, and it seems like every day the crime is just increasing. Also, the land use, right now, I feel like what we've done to the area has been great, and that'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For any of the other individuals who had signed up to speak in opposition, you still have 4 minutes if you want to leverage that. So if I've already called your name and you didn't speak, you do have 4 minutes if someone would like to utilize it now. You have to utilize it now, though. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Raul Ramirez. I live in Forest Park for about 20 years.
Mayor Pro Tem. Hang on, Mr. Ramirez. Had you signed up? I don't see your name on the list.
No,
So-
after you say, I just,
No, I'm sorry, I may have misspoken, but only if you have signed up in opposition, and I read those names a few times, then you could utilize the 4 minutes, but otherwise, we can't have you speak if you haven't signed up.
Okay, that's not what we're doing.
Hang on. We have conducted this cordially and through the rules with reasonable accommodations, and we've said it a few times. So, okay, if you can't be civil and allow the process to continue, then we're going to have to ask you to leave and have you removed. So I hope that you will allow the process to continue because it's actually been very helpful.
okay.
Thank you.
I understand. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So Ms. Grant, you can now come up and have your rebuttal. Thank you. And of course, you'll have 2 minutes for the rebuttal.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council. My name is Carter Siegel. I work for Wood Partners. It's difficult to be here in front of a strong community like this. We're in the business for building communities, and it's not often that we're in this position. Typically, we're coming in areas where there are warehouses as the city evolves, as we build multifamily. We're in the business to build communities, and I completely appreciate the spirit and the emotion behind me. But that having been said, the city has changed a lot. The owners that own this mobile home park have owned it since the 1960s. And Charlotte has changed a lot since the 1960s. As someone mentioned earlier, this used to be farmland, and now we have an interstate next door, and it's become a critical part of Charlotte's growth corridor. I can't be here and say the transition is not is easy. I could fully appreciate that any transition, particularly if you've been in a home for 20 years or longer and you've raised your family there, any kind of transition is going to be difficult. But what we can commit to today before council, before the community, is that we'll do everything, we will work hard to try to make that transition reasonable. The owners of the park,
30 seconds.
they went out of their way, they made notice a year ago, and to give the residents as many as two years to find a home, appreciating the transition is difficult. Many folks would not have done that. I give them a lot of credit, the owners that credit. During that time period, they've not increased rents. They've kept rents in this community below market. I think they deserve credit for that as well, for what it's worth. But we're here to offer what we can to ease this transition. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for allowing us to proceed with the process. We're going to open it up to the council for questions. And I have Ms. Ashmira.
You want to go first? No. Thank you. So this one is a difficult rezoning. So if I can bring petitioner up here, I have a few questions. Someone from Wood Partners, if they could come up. How many residents are at this site currently residing?
I believe existing 60 homes.
60 homes.
Yeah.
So do you know how many residents are we talking about here?
So Wood Partners does not own the site. It's owned by a different family. And so as purchasers, they're not privy to the number of residents who live within that community.
I think if you can provide us that information, that would be helpful in a follow-up report, because we are talking about a major displacement here. So I think that would be important for me. Also, some of the residents I heard they shared that they were not given sufficient notice. Could you tell me about the process of providing a notice to our residents? And what steps were followed to ensure all the residents were given proper notice?
So the notice was between the property owner and the residents, and it's our understanding that in May of 2024, they provided letters in both English and in Spanish, and the property manager delivered them to each of the residents. And I think several of the speakers acknowledged that they had received some letter of communication. There has not been any significant movement during that time, other than that the plan hasn't changed to sell the property and hopefully close the operation of the mobile home park in 2026.
So what was the timeline you said when that notice went out?
May of 2024 with
April.
April 2024, with the hope that providing 2 years.
I'm sorry, May 20th, excuse me. May, I'm looking at it, May 20th, sorry.
With the hope that 2 years would help ease the transition and provide more time than is typically given in this type of situation.
So May 2024, the notice will be, so they have till May 2026,
That's correct.
2 years. Were there any relocation assistance being provided?
That's part of what we're working on right now. This is something that we're going to look at, a transition plan and resources that we can find to assist in that process.
Yeah, could you share that with us?
That's our goal.
Before the decision?
Absolutely.
Okay. I appreciate all the residents for coming out. This is a difficult decision, not just for me, but I can tell for many of our colleagues. I look forward to working with District Council Member Johnson as we make a decision on this next month. But I appreciate the work Councilwoman Johnson has done to engage with the community. I also appreciate Jessica and Robert Dawkins with Action NC to ensure that residents were aware of the process, that they had access to interpretation service. I appreciate the work that City Clerk has done and our staff. This shows that we are being equitable in our approach to engaging community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Thank you so much, Madam President. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge colleague Councilmember Johnson and the work that she's done and follow her leadership, but the amount of community that has come out and the concern for displacement and whatever we can do to offset that. Of course, my sentiments, what Councilmember Ashmere has just said to the public as well, with the community engagement, Action NC, Robert Dawkins and his team, making sure that they led the community in the right steps and in the right direction. And so we care, we hear you, And we hope that we can definitely come to a valuable solution to support you and your families. Thank you. We will follow Councilmember Johnson's lead as it is her district.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Molina.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So, primero voy a hablar con la gente que han venido acá. Y yo sé que eso es algo demasiado difícil de escuchar todas las familias que están así. Primero, yo sé que eso es difícil de venir acá.
Ms.
Eso no
Molina, un momento.
Oh, I got
She has to be able to capture
Oh,
it.
yeah, you
so-
got to. Oh, okay.
You
So
have an earpiece?
I do. I have an earpiece. So, yo no sé si hay una manera de decir eso directamente a ustedes. No me dejan hablar en español para poder hablar directamente contigo, pero quiero decirte algo. So I got to switch to English. I don't have the ability to tell you directly in Spanish. So what I will say is thank you to all of the families that came out today. I know that this is not an easy thing to come before this council. Many of the families that came have been in the neighborhood for a very long time, and I think we realize that. This would be so much better if I could tell you in Spanish. I really want to tell you in Spanish. I can't. No, because she got to be able to. She got to be able to capture my words.
She
does.
has.
She has it now.
So you can
so
speak in
I can?
Spanish. Yes.
Oh, that's why I
jumped in so
switched.
fast.
Oh,
And have it.
Yeah, she can.
She can do it now.
Oh, okay.
Councilmember, I hope that you will speak up and please speak to this because the process is very intimidating. Most people who come to this room here do not understand our process. This is not a decision tonight. This is a hearing and that something will happen. I hope you will please explain that and who these individuals are here as well too. And that they represent citizens who were appointed and that we pride ourselves in a very fair and open process. And the petitioner's going to be working with them and the residents as well too. You all have been through these decisions just like I have, and I know how sensitive this is, so please articulate.
Absolutely. Just before we pass it back over to Ms. Molina, Mr. Peacock, we've had simultaneous translation with the process with individuals who requested headsets.
Okay.
So that's
they've
been
had-
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had.
I still
So,
think she's got great Spanish, though. That's what I'm.
Yeah, they got it.
yeah, no,
Expert.
yeah. So, la cuestión aquí es que lo que quiere hacer la gente que acaban de comprar el terreno es que ellos quieren hacer otra cosa. Y la persona que está encargado del lugar ahora no es el mismo de la persona que quiere hacer la otra. O sea, hay, ¿cómo te digo? Hay, es que hay veces que se me olvidan las palabras cuando yo estoy hablando todo el día en inglés.
Sometimes forget my words because I only speak English during the day. So there's people that want to buy the property, and there is the present owner.
De el terreno ahorita que lo ha tenido por los últimos 60 años.
The people that have owned it for the last 60 years, so they're two different people.
Entonces, en el caso,
So in this
ahora,
case,
me parece a mí,
it
solo de
appears to
escuchar
me,
todo lo que
just
me
to
está
hear
explicando
everything
ahora,
that
es
is being
de
explained to
la
me right
persona
now,
que ha estado
the
encargado
people
de
that have
el
owned it
terreno por los últimos
for the
60
last
años
60 years
es la que está vendiendo
is the one
a la otra
selling it to
persona.
that other person.
Y yo no sé si
And I do not know.
Yo no sé si la persona que está
And I don't
comprando
know if
el
that
terreno
person
está capaz de mantener
that
el lugar así
that
como
person
está.
is
O sea, con
able to-
los trailers así intact, así como
That
como
that
están
person
con
can
las
keep the
familias. Pero
trailer
eso no
park
tiene que
there
decir que
intact.
no hay una manera de
But there's
ayudar a las
not,
familias
that
que están
doesn't
ahí
mean that there is
ahora.
not a way that we can
La
help you in our
persona
area.
capaz
I
de ayudar
am able to help,
y estar ahí,
and I can be
yo
there.
ofrezco,
I can
la
offer you
ayuda
my help
y para hablar en español
so I
con
can
ella
speak
para que ella
Spanish with
entienda
her
qué es
so
lo
that
que
she
está
can
diciendo la familia.
understand what the families are saying.
Como yo no he estado en
As I have
like the whole
not been
process,
in the whole process,
es demasiado difícil, yo
it's
sé.
very difficult.
Y yo
I
sé que no hay
understand.
lugares de
And I
$500
don't know, there's no places left there
que
for
hay en el
$500
aire, en
rents.
el área ahora.
And there is-
son muchas cosas, right?
There are so many
Pero tenemos
factors.
dos cosas.
But
We
there are
got
two things going on right now.
displacement ni sé cómo decir eso en
El
español, se me
desplacio.
está olvidando de la
I
palabra.
never knew it.
There's displacement and then there's a petition.
Y la
They're two
petición.
different
Entonces
things.
son dos diferentes cosas.
But that doesn't mean
Eso
that there's
no
not a
indica
way to
que
help
no hay modo de ayudar
the people who are
las
existing
personas que ya
and,
existen ahí.
And what the petitioner is doing.
que
And I have to say this, I don't know if denying the petition will stop the displacement. I think that's a very important statement to make. I don't know if there is, with the denial of the petition, stopping displacement. There's more questions to find out, but I do know that the petitioner has said that they're willing to help with any potential displacement. But I think it's important to be honest in that way. This is probably one of the most difficult petitions I've seen in a long time. To have so many families that have been in one place for so very long, and there's already been a decision to sell, and a need to help so many families. So what I know for sure is that these conversations are going to be ongoing. Tonight is not a decision. I think the council member that's here to my left is going to be heavily involved in the process in making sure that there is communication between both parties, and finding out if there is a comfortable resolution here. I feel confident that every council member that's sitting here is probably in the same place where this is equally as hard for them to listen to. It's equally as challenging to hear. And it's, like I said, I think it's something that we'll all be tuned into to see if there's a way to do both things at once, if that is what moves forward. Like I said, this isn't a guarantee that this petition will even move forward or not. I think it's important to say that one thing is a petition where a new buyer is interested in doing something else, and the person who currently owns the land has made a decision to sell, and he is in charge of what is currently there, and then there's a new petition that would still probably move forward if the sale were, or if this petition were to go through. So I just look forward to staying connected with the council member for the district to make sure that we're up to date, that we're kept up to date on what the challenges are. That's the best way I can put it, because this is hard. Eso es demasiado difícil. Son dos cosas diferentes, pero la cuestión con las familias, de escuchar a una persona decir de su jardín, que la gente que lo han vivido allá por los últimos 18, 20 años,
people that have lived it for the last 18 years, I know it's very hard.
Y pues es todo lo que tengo que
That's
decir.
all I've got to say.
Gracias.
Thank you. Ms. Mayfield.
Thank you. Mr. Patton, I am not as versed on mobile homes, so help me understand, because some of the residents mentioned their home and what they've invested in it. So what we're currently talking about is land that is owned by a company, individual. But the actual mobile homes, I'm renting a spot at the mobile home, because they also mentioned a rent price. So I wanted clarification on that, how that works.
Yeah, your understanding is correct. So it's one property owner. They have available spaces for units to be located there. So the folks that have their units there likely own those, and they rent the space to locate them in on that property.
Do we ever look at North Carolina general statute? So back in 21-22, there was House Bill 1110 that actually gave some clarification around specifically mobile home. It was specifically the Mobile Home Park Act. And in basically it says, enacts Article 8, General Assembly, Chapter 42, to be cited as the Mobile Home Park Act sets the scope of the article to apply to mobile homes only defined as a single-family dwelling built on a permanent chassis designed for long-term residential occupancy and containing all the things, electrical, plumbing, all of that. So with knowing that we have that legislative language which identifies mobile parks, if council were to move and say council did not support this particular petition request, by right, what could be done with this land? Because they own their building, but they don't own the land. So help me understand what is the rights that the residents have so that we can have a fair conversation.
Yeah, that's probably one I don't know if I would wade too much into because I'm not an expert on that myself. I'm not familiar with the piece of legislation talked about, so I'd like to take a look at it.
So let me pause right there to our city attorney. That's part of your question before, as we move on with this hearing, to get clarification on how House Bill 1110 from 2122 could be interpreted for this conversation. Okay, Mr. Patton.
Okay.
So is that the question then? Is it going to be for follow-up? Okay.
So for the rest of the question.
And so the rest of the question is, what could they do by right? So the property currently, I believe, is zoned N1A.
Right.
So it could be all uses under N1A without a rezoning, so that'd be single-family, duplex, triplex. They could, use compact development or conservation development to, maybe get a few more additional lots than what could be allowed by right with just all, standard development regulations. So, but without any kind of rezoning, then N1A would really only allow those uses in the UDO, which again are those duplex, triplex, quadruplex, in instances where that fourth unit is affordable.
So whether we move at a later date when it's time for a decision to approve or deny, that still does not impact whether or not these units is going to stay on this land, because the owner of the land is in the process of selling that land, and that new owner then has an opportunity to do something very different than what's currently there.
That's correct.
For clarification. Okay. Ms. Grant, question for you, because you mentioned, which is our process, the letters went out in May of 2024, but it went to the property owner, not to the individual residents. It was the property owner's responsibility to send it to each of the units, or you sent the notifications to each unit?
As Councilmember Molina articulated, I think it's important to note that there are almost two processes going on. One is a property owner has decided to sell their land and basically close their business.
Okay,
and so that
just to make
that was the
sure
first.
that we're on the same page for the specific question that I'm
That's
asking.
the May 2024.
For notification.
Yes.
Just for the notification
Yes.
to the residents. Did it go to the property owner or did it go directly to the residents?
There are two different notifications.
Okay.
The May 2024 notification was a notification from the property owner directly to the residents that was not tied or affiliated to the rezoning, and therefore that's what went to the residents. Then there is a separate process for rezoning, and when we follow the rezoning process, we use the city mailing list, and the rezoning notifications go to the property owner.
So our notifications for this conversation of rezoning. And I wanted to clarify that because what was mentioned in your comments and in our discussion is the fact that the property owners sent information to the residents, but we did hear that some residents say they didn't receive, so I want to make sure that we clarify those are two separate conversations. As far as you coming here tonight in preparation for this hearing, you all did not send any notifications, so there could be some residents that learned about it as far as this evening. You're saying the owners had expressed that they sent notification directly to the residents to give at least a year's notice, to your understanding, because since you weren't a part of the process, you don't know if it was done, but to your understanding, that was what was done.
That's correct. I mean, I've seen the letter, and I think it's important to note that when the owner was selling the property, they did not mention that it was contingent upon a rezoning. They basically indicated that they were closing the business, hoped to sell, and intended to close operations in May of 2026 to allow 2 years. And so I think there's a little bit of a gap in that the rezoning process is not necessarily tied to the communication shared with the residents in the mobile home park.
So two separate conversations, but what I was getting to is making sure that we had clarity on you all did not send notification to the current residents. You're saying that that came from the owners
That's correct.
of the property. And when we say 2 years' notice, we're in 2025 now having this conversation. For your client, what was, if this were to move forward, what was the expectation of the property being vacated by?
May of 2026.
So we're having this hearing now, may come up for decision before we end 2025. So what you all have expressed to the residents is that there's an expectation to vacate the land by May of 2025, and you mentioned that you've had some conversations regarding possible assistance with relocation.
We are looking, I want to clarify 2026. I know we're in 2025. It's a year
Right.
later that they would be looking at. And yes, as part of the rezoning package, we think it's an opportunity for us to use the rezoning process to try to find a way to ease the transition and provide more services as part of the process.
So for clarification, so that I completely understand, from tonight's conversation, I am specifically asking if the expectation for the property to be clear, if this were to move forward, has been expressed to the residents that they would have until May of 2026 to vacate.
That's correct.
So that is why you mentioned 2 years from when the notification was sent. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to, before I pass over to Ms. Johnson, I wanted to just make a couple of comments myself. So first and foremost, thank you all for coming out, not only for tonight, and sir, you can't speak from the room, so thank you. So thank you for coming out tonight, and not only for tonight, but I see that there was good participation in the community meetings as well. And so thank you all for being engaged and paying attention to what's going on in your community. A couple of things that I've been learning over the last few days is, as it was mentioned, there are two separate processes, and the current landowner has provided notification back in May 2024 through the property manager of their intention to sell the property and do something else. And so in essence, giving a 2-year window to allow people to make certain decisions and prepare themselves. It sounds, which I think is admirable to do that, right? I do think a 2-year window is admirable to do that level of notification. However, it sounds like many of these residents have lived in this particular neighborhood for decades and have invested in their mobile homes in a permanent way. Perhaps, and this is a question, Ms. Grant, so perhaps under the lens that there wouldn't potentially be a time where the land would be sold. Has there been any conversation around, we're talking about what we've heard tonight from residents is tens of thousands of dollars being invested in their mobile homes. Any conversation in the community meeting or individually around, was there any misunderstanding that this was effectively a rental situation?
I appreciate the question. I think it's difficult for me to speak to the terms of individual leases with the people who are leasing the lot that they moved their mobile home to. And so it's unfortunate in any situation when you don't own the land, you are essentially subject to the conditions of your lease. And if there's a desire to terminate the lease or change the conditions, I think that's what the property owner has the right to do, but I can't really speak to the specifics of the lease. Again, I think that the family has owned the property for over 60 years, and they made the choice to divest because it's sort of an outlier in their overall business portfolio. And so for them, it was for the time to close that particular business. I'm not sure about the individual leases and what that meant in terms of the individual investments.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I'll speak. It's my understanding that they're 30-day leases. So I think everyone has an existing lease, is my understanding, with their 30-day leases.
Okay.
Rolling 30-day leases.
Okay, because my question was going to be around potentially looking at the leases, from a landlord residential lens to ensure that the lease, the language was proper in the lease. So maybe we can just underscore that to make doubly sure that that was clear, because it sounds like there's been tremendous investment in property that may potentially have been under a 30-day notification. It's just, that's a difficult situation. As Ms. Molina stated, a difficult situation. The other piece that I want to just be clear of is the current owner has the right to sell his land, of course. However, the connection with the land owner and this particular petition, is there any connection? It sounds like there's no connection. If this petitioner were to withdraw the petition, or if the council were to decline the petition, the current landowner would proceed to move forward as they have indicated back in May 2024. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would add, up to speak for.
We don't want to speak for them.
Yeah, it's my understanding that, again, they've owned this for a long time. The family's gotten older. It's an old property. What I've been told is it's very difficult to get a mobile home park like this insured these days. So the insurance has been difficult to get full coverage. And so, among other reasons, they're just kind of tired of owning and operating a mobile home park, frankly. And so they made that decision to move on. They contacted us. We've been in Charlotte for a long time, and been before this council many times on rezonings. And so they trusted that we would be a good steward to go through, and trusted we could build a quality development on the property. But we have it under contract. They are not part of this rezoning. So they're totally separate.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
My concern is, there are other mobile homes throughout the city, other mobile home neighborhoods or parks throughout the city of Charlotte, even one or two in District 1. And my concern is that this might be one of the first times in recent history that we're dealing with this. But again, as you actually stated in your comments, the city is ever changing, growing rapidly. This situation may come up again. And so, Mr. Pettin, and just for staff, I think we need to be able to have a point of view of some type of outlook from a prescriptive perspective of how many of these other neighborhoods and parks are out there, and how much potential displacement can occur. And could we somehow get in front of it from a policy perspective and wrap around services? I also commend the landlord, the current landlord, for offering displacement services. That was also thoughtful. I hope that can happen, Ms. Johnson, as early as possible. Given that the notification went out in May 2024, again, it sounds like regardless of this petition, there will be some level of change on this property based on the current property owner. And so I just want to make sure that we are doing as much as we can do to mitigate negative impact from that perspective. So we're in July, we're in wishful thinking. We're in June, and then we come back in August. And so, you know, that you're in the 8th month of the year. Just want to make sure, you know, the holidays can come around very quickly, and then we find ourselves at May, right? And so I just want to make sure that work is getting done. I know we're about to go on a break for council, but I don't want the work to stop or pause throughout the summer recess.
I think this is a great opportunity for us to use the next 2 to 3 weeks to reconvene our team with the residents to come up with some type of package and begin to look at options.
Okay.
I do have a comment. And Ms.
Okay.
Johnson, do you want to go last?
Yeah, she wants to go last.
All right, so.
Okay. Okay. Those were the most pressing questions that I had. Again, I just want to underscore that this is a really unfortunate situation because there are two separate processes going on, and they're not tethered to each other. However, they have impact on one another, right? And so that's the real rub of it, is that these can be untethered, but there will still be impact at some level. And so I recommend all the residents to stay engaged over the summer months. Of course, work with Ms. Johnson. We'll continue to get updates on this over our break, but please stay engaged and stay attuned to what's going on, because I think this can happen very quickly, very quickly. Well, I'll turn it over to Mr. Driggs.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is difficult for us because it runs against what we're trying to accomplish in terms of preserving affordable housing and allowing people to stay where they are. But we need to be clear, we do not have the authority as a body to prevent the landowner. So we could deny this petition, but we can't stop the landowner from exercising the rights of the landowner as a landowner. They have rights under the law, and we don't have the authority to countermand them. So what we're hoping for is that the exercise of those rights can be aligned better with our priority in terms of housing and protecting people. At the same time, the zoning itself, and I think the point has been made, but just to be very clear, whether or not this rezoning is approved, you're on a schedule that was announced by the owner to the residents last year, saying that in 2 years' time, they intend to do something. Now, as part of that, they have applied for, or a potential new owner has applied for this rezoning. That doesn't change the intention of the owner to sell the property. So that's your issue. Your issue is that last year, you were told the owner intends to dispose of this property. And we have to consider the rezoning according to our rules for land use. And my point is, whether or not we approve it, the timeline that was announced to you before is not something that's within our control. I did have one question, I think for the attorney, and that is or actually maybe for Mr. Pettin, these are so-called mobile homes. Can they actually be relocated? Or maybe petitioner?
I can answer that too. I've done some research.
Well, let's find out.
Okay.
It's my understanding, I think it's personal property. Mobile homes are their personal property. I think they're just renting the pad. So,
but can they be relocated?
Can they be relocated?
I don't know the age of the mobile homes, honestly. Many are probably too old to be safely transported on the roads, but I don't know the ages
Johnson,
of
what is
all of
your
the different.
understanding?
It's an old mobile home park.
I was
It's been there
waiting on him
since
to
the
finish.
60s, so I'm sure some of those buildings maybe are, rusted out at the bottom. I'm not sure.
So I'm just curious about the possibility that in the course of these events, property of the people in the room is just demolished.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me there ought to be some law around that, protecting their ownership interest. So I'll be curious to learn more about that. I don't think we're going to resolve it tonight, but Ms. Johnson, I look forward to hearing from you as you continue to work on this. Thank you.
Mr. Driggs, I will say, Ms. Mayfield already mentioned that there is a general statute that addresses protections for mobile home owners with respect to landlords, and there's a commission that is set up to resolve disputes, and we really have not dug deep into that because, of course, the city is outside that process. That's the private contractual process between the mobile home owners and the landlord. But since Ms. Mayfield did bring it up, I think that it's something that the mobile home owners should be aware of, that there is a bill that speaks to their protections.
So I think that was my point, though, about the separation between the 2-year timeline and the owner announcing the intention to sell and the rezoning. It may be that you have rights that are not within our authority, and that you might need to get legal advice according to that law, but that would not be for us. And so I'm looking forward with interest to learning more about things like that. But the reason we're squirming here is because we don't like to see this kind of thing happen, and yet it's not up to us.
Yeah, Mr. Driggs, I think that's a great delineation in that, you know, we're speaking about this particular petition this evening. However, you may have rights that are outside of our purview, and I would encourage you to speak to your state legislation representatives about those rights, because we can't influence those from a local level, and we're not fully scrubbed in on the inner workings of those as well. So I would definitely encourage you to interface and engage with your General Assembly representation as well. I have Ms. Molina, and then I believe we're going, okay. Ms. Molina, and then Ms. Ajmer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. And just for a quick follow-up, again, a lot has been said, and así como una persona que sabe de lo que pasa entre la comunidad hispana, yo sé que no hay mucha gente que están capaces de comunicarse con la gente así como nosotros. Entonces, vamos a estar en contacto con la señora Johnson para que nosotros hablemos de qué es lo que ustedes tienen, de derechos. Eso de las leyes del Estado y cómo eso es diferente de las leyes de lo que nosotros tenemos aquí en la ciudad. Eso son cosas que son difíciles para poder entender. Entonces, nosotros nos vamos a estar en contacto con la persona que está encargada de todo eso para ver si hay una manera de ayudarte a entender qué es lo que o cuáles los derechos que tienes. Y yo tengo otra pregunta por la persona que está aquí, that's representing the petitioner. So I want to make sure that I'm clear and that las personas que han venido acá, que ellos están claros de qué es lo que quieren hacer acá. The petitioner, who is the person who's purchasing the land, they're willing to, in whatever ways that they can, help the residents that are living in the park right now. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. That's what we're here committing to, yes.
Okay. And they're willing to work through this process with those residents, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I think, no sé si hay una persona que está, que no entiende eso or like needs some help with that. I don't know. I'm just asking to see what that means. Like, are they willing to help in the case that there is potential displacement, right? And to make sure that the people who have come have a good grasp on what these laws are that we're referring to, because to say, oh, there is another law, I realize how difficult that is. To sometimes just to know that there's a local government, then a county government, then a state government, and then to understand what we all do and what those differences are. Sometimes that can be a very difficult, process. So to make it as least confusing as possible, there's a number of people that can be in place to make sure as best as we can that some of those things are explained, to make sure that no matter what is happening here, your protections are in the forefront. So I'll say that, and that's just my follow-up, because I know I heard that, but I just wanted to make sure that I was clear in that the petitioner is willing to assist in that process as well. So, okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Well, we will go to Ms. Ajmira and then close it out with Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. It's great to see my colleagues asking some tough questions. There were some questions around personal property protection that Councilmember Driggs raised. I think that is important here, and we need to do more work in that space. So if we can get some answers about that, Ms. Hagler-Gray, about personal property protection. I know that's not within our purview, and there is a House bill on that, but if you could just provide us some references to that, that would be.
Yeah, we'll have to check further because it was filed, it was in a previous session, we'll have to make sure that it actually did pass, but there were, the General Assembly was considering those protections.
Because what I worry about here is, we heard from our residents, some of them have invested over $90,000. So to Mr. Driggs' point, if some of these units are not movable, where they are fixed, I mean, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars of losses. I mean, that is unimaginable. So we just need more information on this. Even by August, I don't know if we can get all this information in terms of personal property protections, how many units are going to be able to move to a different site, what are the alternatives. I know you are working on the package to give us that information about what the relocation assistance will look like. And also, if you could give us information on how old is the newest lease. Okay, because I think that is very relevant in this case. Let's say if the lease was just started back in 2023, and a year later they got a notice, then it certainly plays an important part. So I don't know if there are any protections in the bill that states, hey, if the lease is new, there might be additional protections, but certainly we need to do more homework here. But I look forward to hearing some of this information getting some information from Bridget as well as our attorney's office. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you to my colleagues, but thank you most of all to the residents who showed the courage to come out and advocate for yourselves. I know this is difficult for everyone, and I want you to know that we hear you. You hear the compassion for this situation from all of my colleagues. It's challenging, it's extra challenging because many of you own your unit. But as we've learned that the units are considered personal property. So hopefully that new bill, there might be some extra protections. But when I learned about this petition in late 2024, one of the first things I did was speak to the city attorney. I've done and I walked the mobile home park, and I gave my cards to a couple people. I left it at the store. I wanted you all to reach out to me. There were a few people that reached out. One young man, and I won't say his name, but one young man was very helpful in getting some residents together. So I did have a community meeting. The city attorney was at that meeting. We had planning staff. We had the developer at that meeting. So I want to make sure that we communicate. These are things that I say all the time. This will be an opportunity, Mr. Pettin, for that zoning sign to have a barcode and be translated in Spanish. I've said that before. So this is the reason why outreach and communication and accessibility is so important. I do have a question for city staff. This petition is inconsistent with the 2040 policy map, but yet it's recommended by the staff. Can you elaborate on that some, please?
Yeah, sure. We did take a look at surrounding land uses. We also took a look at the existing activity center, the road network that was being proposed. We do acknowledge that we've got some conflicting goals. We've got the goal of preserving housing. We also have the goal of 10-minute neighborhoods and providing, density in places that make sense and have goods and services, access and infrastructure and those types of things. So as we looked at it, our evaluation was strictly from the proposal of the project and what they were proposing in conjunction with the activity center, and again, the uses that were surrounding it immediately to the north and on the other side of Prosperity, and saw that it did provide compatibility. It did provide a range of mix of uses. It provided connections to that activity center where folks, if the property was redeveloped, would live in proximity to those. So that was our evaluation of it against the policy map, even though it was inconsistent. But again, we do acknowledge there are some conflicting goals between both that preservation of affordable housing and establishing 10-minute neighborhoods, and again, providing some of that density and housing options in places where we've got existing infrastructure and existing access to those goods and services.
Okay, thank you. So there have been questions about the notice. I would say that the owner gave the notice. The residents acknowledged that they received information in May 2024. There was a public meeting, I think, in November. I had a meeting. The issue is affordability in the city. Where do people go where they can pay $500 a month? And these residents have taken the extra steps to protect themselves in purchasing a mobile home. But this happens all throughout our city. So and this is a bigger issue for this council, and the same energy and this compassion that we have in protecting individuals, we need to look at this from a policy perspective. Developers are redeveloping hotels and motels where individuals are staying. There's low-income units, there's mobile homes. This is not the first one. There was one on Statesville that was just developed. So until we, as a council, actually walk our talk and really put some things in place to protect residents like this, this is going to continue to happen in this city. So I look forward to continuing to work with council to change policies, because as the representative said, this seller is intent on selling this property. They've been very clear. You all have to understand that. The seller has said that this mobile home park will terminate in May 2026. So if we deny this one, deny the next one, we cannot prohibit this seller from selling. So what we as a council need to know is that our decisions affect folks like this, and we really have to figure out what we're going to do. I talk about it all the time. Individuals on fixed incomes. I met a lady who receives $1,000 a month. Her rent is $1,800 a month. Individuals on Social Security, SSI, I talk about this all of the time. So this is a problem in the city. It's not for a zoning meeting, I know that. It's a policy issue. So we have to do something as council members. But again, I thank you all for coming out. And what we need to do as a council is figure out what the next steps are for you all. So thank you so much for coming out. Muchas gracias. Motion to close.
Second.
Okay, motion to close public hearing and second. All in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you all so much for coming out. For those of you who do have the headsets, if you can put them back in the bag and someone will be receiving them up. And council members, if you all could put your headsets back in the bag, Ms. Ariel will come over and collect them. There are wipes if you would like to sanitize. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This is sad. It happens every day.
Okay, we'll take just a moment to transition, and then we will get started with agenda item number 16. As you all leave, can you try to leave quietly, please? Thank you.
Stand up.
Okay, so we will move on to agenda item number 16, petition number 2024-112 by Dream Key Partners. The location is approximately 4.4 acres on the east side of Beatty's Ford, south of Slater Road, and north of Cindy Lane in District 2, Mr. Graham's district. The current zoning is N1B, proposed zoning is N2A CD. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to site and building design. After staff's presentation, we will have, once again, Ms. Grant to join us, as well as we have, and she will have 10 minutes, and then we have William Lisi, who will speak in opposition. He will have 10 minutes, and then Ms. Grant, once again, will have 2 minutes for a rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you. Petition 2024-112 is approximately 4.4 acres located on the east side of Beatty's Ford Road, south of Slater Road, and north of Cindy Lane. The site is developed with one single-family home currently, is surrounded by institutional uses as well as some single-family residential. Current zoning is N1B. Proposed zoning is N2A CD. The 2040 policy map recommends the neighborhood 1 place type.
Oh, sorry.
The proposal would allow for a community of 40 multifamily attached residential dwellings in buildings of no more than 6 units. Commits to a workforce housing program for a minimum of 30% of the total number of units for a period of 30 years at 80% or less of the area median income. A Class C landscape yard will be located along the northern, eastern, and southern property boundaries. The open space tree save and stormwater detention areas will be at the eastern corner of the site. There is a large, or a 70-foot natural gas easement along the northern property boundary that would be maintained. Access will be provided by constructing the fourth leg of the intersection of Beatty's Ford Road and Capps Hill Mine Road, and a public street network with an east-west street as well as a north-south street will provide access to units. The units will be in 2 building areas that would be bisected by that north-south public street, and an 8-foot planting strip and 12-foot multi-use path will be located along the site's Beatty's Road frontage. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to site and building design. Petition is inconsistent with the policy map recommendation for neighborhood 1 place type. However, the proposed multifamily attached dwellings would provide an additional housing option in a housing gap. The petition commits to providing a workforce housing program for 30% of the units for a period of 30 years at 80% AMI. The site is within a quarter mile of a commercial node at Beatty's Ford Road and Cindy Lane that includes retail service and institutional uses. Also would be improvements to the intersection of Beatty's Ford Road and Capps Hill Mine Road. And I'll take any questions following comments from the petitioner and the community.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grant.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem.
Starting route to 9700 Midworth Avenue.
Sorry. It's happened to me before. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, members of the zoning committee, Bridget Grant, land use consultant with Moore & Van Allen. It's a pleasure to be here tonight on behalf of Dream Key Partners. We appreciate staff support on this petition. I believe David, Howard, and the pastor stopped by prior to the meeting to confirm their support of this petition. Staff did a great job, so I'm just going to highlight some of the basics. The site's just under 4 acres located on the east side of Beatty's Ford Road across from the McCrory YMCA. It's zoned N1B, and the proposed zoning is N2A to allow development of the site with a residential multifamily community to provide affordable housing opportunities. As you can see, the site's recommendation, place type recommendation is N1. It's a little bit odd though, because when you look at the surrounding context, it's not surrounded by N1. It's surrounded by churches, schools, office uses, and the YMCA. So it's a little misleading when you look at the context. And in fact, I think you'd find that this proposed use and density is probably appropriate in this location, providing access to those uses. This is a high-level view of our site plan. It shows that our access point is off of Beatty's Ford Road. We have a 12-foot multi-use path and an 8-foot planting strip along the front of our site. One of the city's goals is always about connectivity, and so you can see running sort of planned north to south, we've got a new public road that will allow future developments to connect to this and will provide other access that will get you out to a proposed traffic signal that will be at the access point with this development. There's a affordability, commitment to affordable housing, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm here with Julie Porter, and she'll probably handle the rebuttal for us.
Thank you and welcome, Ms. Porter. So, Mr. Lisi, if you would like to come down. I have a question. You want to do it after him?
Good evening. I'm William Lazzie. I'm the current owner of parcel 04108123, which property that's under petition meets us at the corner off the gas easement and 1932 Slater Road, where my wife and my family reside. In the area, sorry, we're a little jet lagged. We got here a couple hours ago, so try to be okay with this. But yeah, so we bought the property under the guise that the 2040 map would keep the surrounding adjoining properties single family. Obviously, we have the school next door, and I believe they had some concerns with this as well. I'm sure Councilman Graham, who's not here today, had their concerns in written form, if y'all didn't receive those as well. But their issue was safety and traffic, which obviously is ours and our surrounding single-family housing neighbors. So we've lived there for 5 years now. The area is kind of undeveloped. The more single-family housing that came in, the better the security and lives of the neighborhood and community got. And I feel like, sorry, I'm a little nervous talking. But anyway, so the area got a lot nicer in the past 5 years with the influx of single family. So that's kind of what we wanted to keep it to, because people own property, they take care of it, they respect it, they look out for their neighbors. And I feel like bringing in a 40-unit multifamily dwelling where it's kind of hidden in the woods, has no amenities, no parks, no transportation's kind of at a minimum in the area. So I just feel like the residents who live there, they won't take care of the property as well as if they owned it as in a single family occupation, and also they have nothing to do. So what are they gonna do? And I feel like that'll kind of just flip the improvement of the community and neighborhood, which we have seen increase over the past 5 years. They'll flip it right on its head and bring it back to the crime, the trespassing, the stealing, and all that we saw in the past 5 years that's been approved upon by the single family zoning in the area. So that's what I'm here today, to help protect my neighbors and I's property and, our livelihoods and our future goals for our original purchase within this neighborhood. It's to vote no on this and help us out and keep the 2040 and the visions we had of our property intact and not change that on us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Porter, if you would like to come up, you'll have 2 minutes for your rebuttal.
Mayor Pro Tem, council representatives, first of all, I just want to thank you all for your support of Dreamkey Partners and affordable housing more generally. We've loved this property. It's right across from McCrory Y MCA, and really feel like it will enhance the area. This is going to be affordable housing, but it's going to be home ownership. So it's going to be for people who are 80% of area median income and under. It will be a townhome development. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we were able to resolve kind of the issue that the school next door had with the connection between our property and their property, so that their residents, or their customers' parents, could actually get to the stoplight, that we're helping to make sure that it's all connected.
Okay. Excellent.
Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. I have Ms. Mayfield.
Thank you. Ms. Porter, you actually addressed the question I was going to ask for Ms. Grant. Have you submitted the updated plan to staff yet that shows that connection?
That's due on Thursday after public hearing, so that's when it will get submitted.
All the questions I have, move to close the hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. I just wanted to make the comment that this is a great area, especially the McCrory as a historic YMCA in our community. And so having affordable for-sale housing to really help workforce, to provide workforce housing for those individuals who are working, to be able to access good, safe, affordable housing is certainly, Ms. Porter, you know, something that I'm passionate about, many of my colleagues are, and I'm happy to see some kind of format of affordable for sale continue to happen in our city. And with that, is there a motion to close public hearing? Oh, I do have it, first and second. All in favor, please raise hands. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 17, petition number 2025-013 by True Homes. The location is approximately 8.43 acres located along the north and south side of Mentworth Avenue, west of Margaret Wallace Road and east of Wyalong Drive in District 5, Miss Molina's district. The current zoning is NS. And N2B, proposed zoning is N2B-CD. Staff does not recommend approval of this petition in its current form, and because staff does not recommend this petition after staff's presentation, and they will receive as much time as they want, but 10 minutes, and the opposition, who is staff. So Ian and Joel
Head southwest on South Davidson
Sorry.
Street.
Ian and so you two are here? All right, if you can make your way to the podium, and after staff's presentation, you will have 10 minutes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. 2025-013, it's 8.43 acres off of Mentworth Avenue, west of Margaret Wallace and east of Wyalong Drive. The current zoning is neighborhood services and N2B. You can see the N2B is just that small orange portion there, kind of on the bottom right of the project boundary. The 2040 policy map does recommend the commercial place type, mainly based off that NS zoning that was in place previously or currently. The proposal for this project is to allow up to 64 multifamily attached dwellings under the N2B district. They do have some transportation provisions with multiple access points to the site from Mentworth Avenue, Mentworth Links Lane, and Wyalong Drive. They would also extend the current left turn lane on Margaret Wallace to 100 feet. They would provide a 10-foot wide Class C landscape yard along the western boundary of the site. Also provide an 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalk along Margaret Wallace Road, and include bicycle facilities that would be constructed by locating the curb and gutter 28 feet from the center line of Wyalong Drive. The site is served by the CATS 52X bus route, and the petitioner will coordinate with CATS on any of those bus stop improvements. It is directly adjacent to, as well, just to the north, a commercial center with a grocery store and some other commercial uses. Staff does recommend, or excuse me, does not recommend recommend approval of this petition in its current form. No real concerns with the type of project that's being proposed and the residential component, just some site design features and some transportation items that need to be resolved and worked through as we continue through the process. But again, no overall significant concerns with the proposal, just a lot of details and items that need to be cleaned up before staff can reevaluate our recommendation. But from there, we will turn it over to the petitioner and we will take any questions following their presentation. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Anderson and Mr. Madden, you have 10 minutes in aggregate. Thank you.
I'm Joel Madden with True Homes, Mayor Pro Tem. Council, thank you for having us here tonight. As staff mentioned, we're working through some minor issues with staff. We've been in close communication with really three departments: planning, transportation, and parks and rec, and we feel like we've got all of those agreed to in principle, so we'll be submitting an updated plan that we believe addresses all of those issues by Wednesday of this week. And then just wanted to also add, we held a community meeting, did not have any in attendance in that meeting. That was an in-person meeting at a nearby church. So we're gonna hold another meeting in mid-July. I think we're targeting July the 9th. We're gonna do that one online just in case that promotes additional neighborhood involvement. So other than that, we'd be glad to try to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Staff, did you have, since you're in opposition, are you okay?
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Ms. Molina?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So I actually went to that meeting and I couldn't find it.
You're the one.
So somebody I am the one, and I am the council member.
One of the people in the church said they saw someone and directed them across the street.
They directed me across the street, and I couldn't find it. So if I couldn't find it, I know if a resident was interested, they couldn't find it. So that's
I'm sorry to hear
first
that.
things first. And secondly, I feel uncomfortable. So again, what I do as an elected representative for this 125,000 plus district of human beings is I look at what our policy says we can and can't do, and then I connect with the residents. And you're, in this case, and I'm talking fundamentally just from what I would imagine to be a resident's perspective, this right now is neighborhood services. So there is a potential for, in its current form, there to be somewhere they could shop, someplace they could go, someplace where they would be able to buy stuff. And now we're going to take that away and put more houses with less places for them to go and buy stuff and shop. And we haven't talked to any neighbors to see how they feel about that, right? Because that's an important challenge that we have to face as we continue to have, you know, people who want to come and live in our city, in how we look at this. We have a unified development ordinance that was developed and has been adopted as policy. And those policy maps are right now, they should not even need our implementation. When we're saying that we want to change the Unified Development Ordinance and its application from where it currently stands, I feel like we need to have a reason to do so, because there's already a policy that has guidance for what can and cannot be done. So what you're asking for is an exception to the current policy to change something that is currently existing and fitting for the residents that live there to put more residents there. Right? And so I feel uncomfortable as the representative even considering that until I've talked to some level of, you know, some level of representation of the people this decision could affect, to see if this is something that they would be, you know, in agreement with. Again, this isn't, because again, the policy map is as it should be, right? So like, it was an extreme undertaking for the council of that time that made the decision to go forward to say we're creating community area plans and policy maps that are already guiding what we see as far as the people we intend to attract to the city. And when we say, hey, you know what, we're going to create increased density, or hey, we're going to change what the scope of what that alignment is, then I think when we're going beyond what the rules already say, I feel real compelled to say we have to make sure that there's consensus. So staff, I hope that, you know, first I know that you're adhering to what you see could be potentially for that area, but I think we have a responsibility if we're going beyond what the policy states, because I'm not speaking out of alignment with what the policy states. I'm not saying that we can't create density, but based on what, neighborhood.
Properties that are looking to be rezoned, particularly along Mintworth. On the south side of Mintworth is 2 office buildings and what was a proposed Walgreens, and on the other side is 1 office and 2 retail spaces, one of which was constructed and one that didn't come to fruition. So the main entitlements that were still remaining were primarily office uses and a pharmacy that doesn't look like it was ever built or ever came to fruition. But one of the retail out parcels was constructed and the rest remaining was primarily office uses.
Okay. So I look forward to continuing. I look forward to an actual meeting where there's some participation from the residents, that a decision that says we would take away the possibility for there actually be businesses create jobs, right? Inevitably, a business creates a job, a business creates a place where you can shop, a business does so many different things, and it's already zoned for business. And so to say we're going to take it to residential, we got to have some kind of feedback that says that's, and for full transparency, I don't live close enough to the site, but if I leave my house, make one left, go down the street, I shop at that Harris Teeter, just for perspective. And I got 2 options. I can go to Food Line or go down the street to Harris Teeter, and sometimes when I want a groovy Harris Teeter, I go to my colleague in District 1, I go to her hers be lit. On South Boulevard, but that's when I feel like taking a drive. But if I need ketchup and it's like 6 o'clock and I'm cooking, I'm probably gonna go to Food Line or that Harris Teeter, right? So I know the area very well. I've lived there for 16 years. So yeah, I just look forward to continued discussion.
Yes, ma'am. Do you have a recommendation for an online meeting versus another in-person meeting? Do you have a preference as it relates to that?
I honestly, I make time to be present as often as I possibly can. And I actually did go to the in-person meeting. And like I said, I couldn't find it. So I don't have a preference. I just do what it would take to get as many neighbors to participate as possible. Sometimes we're working with residents that are elderly. And so, and again, I don't know the demographics, and that's a challenge, right? If we have elderly neighbors, then sometimes the online is a little bit more accessible or not, right? It's just kind of hit or miss. But, I'll talk to our staff to see what type of connections that we have with the area, to see if we can maybe help you reach out to some of the people that live, within that area.
We would appreciate that collaboration, absolutely, and we can go either way with that. We tried to do it in person just because I always believe face-to-face is better if you can accommodate that, but also understand the accessibility and things like that. So
absolutely.
Certainly open to that. To your points, yeah, this was a part of a rezoning that was done originally a number of years ago. You're familiar with the area, of course, with the Harris Teeter and the pizza place, which is fantastic, and there is some shopping there. And this, for whatever reason, has sat dormant for quite some time, so that's why the property owner reached out to us and said, hey, would y'all consider something here, because it hasn't taken root from a neighborhood, traditional neighborhood services type of arrangement heretofore. So, yeah, we'd love to chat more with you. If you'd like to, any strategies you might have on getting some public involvement, we'd certainly be open to that. We're excited about the project. We think it would bring a lot to the community, and feel like we bring a quality home to the area, but certainly understand your concerns. And again, my apologies for the confusion it was with that church kind of split on opposite sides of the road. I was confused when I got there too, to try to figure out where we were supposed to go. So
yeah, I was. Like I said, there was a really nice lady who came out to greet me, and she was like, well, try across the street. And then I went across the street, and I was like wandering, looking like I was lost.
We were waiting for somebody to walk in after we heard that, and then we sent somebody outside, and I think by then you probably gave up on us.
Yeah,
so
I was like, okay, there's probably not a meeting happening or something. Where I called staff. Actually, I called the person who helps me. I'm like, I think I'm in the wrong place. So, yeah.
Sorry.
But we'll figure it out.
For that. Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you so much. That's all I have, Mayor Pro Tem.
Move to close the hearing.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion and second to close public hearing. All in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you for coming out. And we will move on to agenda item number 18, petition number 2025-020 by Sage Investment Group. The location is approximately 2.56 acres located south of Tuckasegee Road, east of Queen City Drive, and west of I-85 and District 3, Ms. Brown's district. The current zoning is CG and ML1. Proposed zoning is N2CD. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of requested technical revisions. And there is no one signed up, City Clerk, to speak to this one, so we will just have staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Petition 2025-020 is just over 2.5 acres located south of Tuckasegee Road, east of Queen City Drive, and west of I-85. It's currently developed with a motel and restaurant, and currently zoned CG and ML1 with a proposed zoning of N2C CD. The 2040 policy map recommends the manufacturing and logistics place type. The proposal is to adaptively reuse the existing motel to create up to 125 residential units, as well as to maintain the restaurant use as a neighborhood commercial establishment. No new structures would be allowed. All redevelopment will be occurring within the existing building footprints, maintaining existing site infrastructure, including the surface parking. Minor exterior repairs and material updates would occur to meet current code and maintenance needs. There's a coordinated anti-displacement strategy to be implemented in partnership with Crisis Assistance Ministry, which would include a minimum 90-day notice to all existing tenants, individual rehousing plans developed and tracked, weekly coordination meetings to monitor progress, as well as property closure contingent on successful rehousing of all residents. Staff recommends approval of the petition upon resolution of requested technical revisions. It is inconsistent with the policy map recommendation for the manufacturing and logistics place type, however, would convert the existing extended stay motel into up to 125 studio apartments, supporting UDO goals related to adaptive reuse, sustainability, and infill development. The proposed N2C zoning district is intended to accommodate a range of moderate intensity residential housing types, including multifamily stacked dwellings, which aligns with the petition's proposed use. Though inconsistent with the policy map, the proposed residential use is compatible with nearby zoning and land use patterns, which include residential, commercial, office, and institutional districts. The reuse of the existing building avoids additional impervious surface, preserves site infrastructure consistent with the UDO goals for fiscally and environmentally responsible development. And with no petitioner, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Question, Mr. Peacock.
Can you talk about, this wasn't related to it wasn't mentioned earlier, but you talked about the coordinated anti-displacement strategy. You heard the original petition tonight about the displacement of a lot of people in mobile homes. Is there anything, staff, that we can learn from what you're recommending here for that petition? Is that possible to follow that? I know that's not what you spoke to earlier, but it's the first thing I'm picking up on here. Minimum 90-day notice to all existing tenants, individual rehousing plans developed and tracked, weekly coordination meetings to monitor progress, property closure contingent on successful rehousing of all residents. And you're doing it in coordination with crisis assistance.
Yeah, this is, I think, what we learned from going through this process with some of these previous hotel conversions. We worked with our Housing and Neighborhood Services partners to come up with that type of strategy. I don't know if it's been explored for the petition we talked about earlier this evening, but we can, excuse me, certainly reach out and see if that's something else that can be offered. I think the difference with some of that is the actual ownership of the units versus here. They're, in the hotel staying where the other petition we heard earlier, like I said, they actually own that asset, and so that's a whole nother level of trying to coordinate, assistance with not just relocating people, but also real property. So that's why there may not be, a direct correlation between the two, but we can certainly explore to see if there's anything else that we can learn from it.
Yeah, and Madam Mayor, I was just going to say, Ms. Johnson, Just you tracking with this? I don't know what your reactions are to that, to try to help us before a decision on the previous petition. Are those strategies that might?
Like you said, the challenge is that they own their mobile home, you know, and so that's just the extra challenge. We've seen these displacement strategies when the hotels are redeveloped, and I appreciate the fact that we have this and we're working to be proactive. So yes, it does help. It absolutely helps,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Thank you for asking the question. Thank you.
No more questions.
All right. The one question I have, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but it says it's for up to 125 multifamily stacked residential units. Do you have any knowledge of how many families currently stay at the motel?
I do not. That's a question we can ask of the petitioner.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand the scope of this anti-displacement effort here. If it's, you know, really being leveraged, you know, at a 80% capacity or above, or, you know, is it much lower than that? Because that will give us some understanding of the impact. So,
Can I say something?
yes, Ms. Johnson.
So I think I'm doing the math correctly. When we talk about affordable or attainable or workforce housing, 80% is around $89,000 for the household. So I just want us to keep that in mind when we're advocating for affordable housing. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and second. All in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. And we will move on to petition number 19. Petition 2025-028 by Canvas Residential Partners LLC. The location is approximately 8.91 acres located south of Mount Holly, Huntersville Road, east of Oakdale Road, and west of Fire Street Drive in the ETJ, closest to District 4, Ms. Johnson's district, and for the County Commissioners, District 1, Ms. Powell. The current zoning is N1A, proposed zoning is N2ACD. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to transportation and site design. Ms. Grant will join us yet again, and I want to see if Mr. Tom Wright, are you in the building? Okay, wonderful. So Ms. Grant, you'll have 10 minutes. Mr. Wright will have 10 minutes, and you will again have 2 minutes for your rebuttal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. 2025-028, it's just under 9 acres, as mentioned, off of Mount Holly, Huntersville Road, just east of Oakdale and west of Fire Street Drive. Currently zoned N1A, proposing to rezone to Neighborhood 2A conditional. You can see we've got some RA to MFCD heading down Mount Holly, Huntersville, back over there to Oakdale, which when we did translation, when the UDO went into effect, the R8 MF zoning district translated directly to Neighborhood 2A. So just want to provide a little bit of that context and background for you. The adopted place type on the policy map does recommend Neighborhood 1. Again, you can see that orange just to the left, that represents Neighborhood 2, which again is reflective of that R8 MF zoning that is currently in place for those two projects just to the east, or excuse me, west. The proposal for 2025-028 would be for up to 65 multifamily attached residential dwelling units, essentially townhomes, limits the number of units in a building to a maximum of 4, does provide an 8-foot wide planting strip and 12-foot wide multi-use path along Mount Holly, Huntersville, as well as 8-foot wide planting strip and sidewalk on Public Road A. There is connectivity with the projects to the west, so that provides a continual street network from this project through the other 2 existing projects all the way back down to Oakdale. That would be through Bluedale Road and a street stub also to the adjacent properties slightly to the east so that road network can continue on should there be future development. It does provide open space that's accessible to residents. That would consist of some different design elements for seating, decorations, interactive elements, things like that. Also provides a 10-foot Class C buffer adjacent to single-family use or zoned property, and then also commits to some design guidelines for the design of the actual structures themselves. Staff does recommend approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to transportation and site design. Again, it is inconsistent with the policy map recommendation for Neighborhood 1. We do have the adjacencies just next door and somewhat of a continuation of the communities that have been built there, again, particularly with that public street network that does provide that access all the way back over to Oakdale without getting back onto Mount Holly, Huntersville. So that's one element we also want to ensure that we highlight a little bit as part of this continuation of what really is those two developments again to the west. So with that, we'll turn it over to the petitioner as well as the community and take questions following their presentations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grant.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, members of the zoning committee. Bridget Grant here on behalf of John Floyd. I'm covering for his case tonight, so you might do additional follow-up with him. We're here representing Creighton Call and Canvas Residential on what's essentially a third phase to this rezoning community. Staff mentioned that's an 8.91 acre site, and I'm not going to repeat everything that Dave said. Let me jump ahead to the site. This got developed as Oak Lake Phase 1. The initial phase was developed as a transition upon what was supposed to be potentially commercial where Oak Lake Phase 2 is. And so we were transitioning between commercial to townhomes in this location. After this first phase began development, there was interest from the property owners in selling to this developer, and it created the opportunity for us to provide more townhomes in this area and provide that direct connection out to the road and sort of relieve some of the traffic that's on Mount Holly Huntersville Road by providing a parallel path. As we've been working through on Oak Lake Phase 1 and Phase 2, the property owner that owns Phase 3 approached the development team because they had a change in circumstance and wanted to downsize away from their current home situation and thought that continuing the same quality development, continuity between the development uses, transitioning between what was happening over to the single family, and again, continuing that road network that provides you an alternative off of Mount Holly Huntersville Road and a good parallel path would be an appropriate transition in this location. So when you look at the site plan rendered, as Dave mentioned, we've got 20-foot setbacks from back of curb. We are accommodating future changes for the thoroughfare setback. We've got one access point on Mount Holly Huntersville Road, but our internal streets will provide stubs that support the existing development to the south as well as any future development that will happen on adjacent property. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions after Mr. Wright has a chance to speak.
Okay. Mr. Wright, if you could come on down to the podium, and once you arrive, you will have 10 minutes.
Thank you for your time. My concern is with the amount of traffic. The proposed additional development is going to be up to 65 units, which I'm sure that's probably what they're going to put there, allowing for 1.5 spaces for vehicle parking. That's up to an additional 90 vehicles. Now, I understand that they've proposed or are putting in a road that will parallel Mount Holly Huntersville Road, but there's also going to be one entrance that is coming out somewhere, roughly a couple of football fields is about the best analogy I can give you, down from my property. And my property is directly adjoining to the property that they're going to build on. And, excuse me, that property, my property has been in the family. Well, I'm 76 years old, so property's been there 75, 80 years. It's been the same family. Additionally, I have relatives who live behind and beside of me who have been there just as long as I have, and they couldn't be here tonight due to poor health. But my concern is the additional growth of traffic. Now, Holly-Huntersville Road used to be a pretty little two-lane country road. Now it's a two-lane country speedway. I can stand in my yard and hear the cars leaving the traffic circle a quarter mile down the road, and it sounds like a drag strip. So my big concern is the additional traffic. Granted, some of the people are going to use the roadway going out down to Oakdale, but there's some going to use the other, and that's my big issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grant, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I just want to say we appreciate Mr. Wright's willingness to come out and speak tonight and share his concerns about the proposed development. We do think that there will be some relief by using the internal street network, and it's just not uncommon when you see the amount of transportation improvements that have been made with the roundabouts in that area, that some of the development followed with it. One of the things he mentioned, though, that I did want to clarify is the parking at 1.5 spaces per unit. We have a lot of conversations about parking in townhome developments. That is the ordinance requirement, and so what's noted on the plan is the ordinance requirement. We are likely going to have 1- and 2-car garages with parking in the driveway, as well as guest parking available on street. So we anticipate it'll be over the 1.5. We're just noting the ordinance requirement. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Mayfield.
Thank you. Mr. Patton, question. It is noted by staff the proposed development will fill a need for housing in the area that's been identified by the 2040 comprehensive plan as lacking opportunities for access to housing. How often are we looking at that? Because what I'm really trying to understand is, does this rationale of that statement take into consideration the multiple multifamily projects that we have already approved, and the fact that further up Mount Holly-Huntersville Road, a 2022 approval of a new police station, the groundbreaking and clearing has already happened. We have another development that was approved where the clear cutting happened, but for the last 2.5 months, no work has continued, and I don't know if that's because of the financial climate today where work has stopped, but I'm trying to reconcile utilizing the language of lacking in an area that is not lacking just based off of the approvals of multifamily that this council has moved forward within the last year and a half.
Yeah, and that's a good question. I think that's something we'll have to follow up with our folks that manage that EGF database and see how often it gets updated and what, year that's being pulled from. But I'll be happy to look into that and give you a follow-up on it.
So that speaks to a request that Councilmember Johnson has made repeatedly when we talk about a cumulative impact of areas. So it's challenging to read a comment regarding an area that's been identified, knowing that staff isn't automatically, since the question has been asked multiple times for a number of years now, to look at what we're approving in real time to see the impact of it. Ms. Grant, when we're looking at the possible connections, what were the improvements that have been committed to by the organization you're representing?
The commitment is to provide the extension of the existing public street network from phases 1 and 2 into phase 3. So it's essentially an execution of what we would refer to as our subdivision requirements, where we're building a street network to provide a parallel road that runs parallel to Mount Holly-Huntersville Road. So it would be an alternative route.
And the idea of connecting this multifamily into this residential community versus having a stub road, staff, we're mandating that?
So the projects to the west of this both built public streets that extended from Oakdale with the intention of building out a network that could be a public road network for folks to get from one side of that area to another without having to get on Mount Holly Huntersville. So they are all public streets that are being connected to, so we're not connecting from a public street the city would maintain to a private street that's maintained by, an HOA. They're private alleys, but the public street network is something that was designed with the initial project and will continue forward to the east should other projects be approved. But it's essentially, again, trying to build that parallel road network to Mount Holly Huntersville to provide some relief for it. But yes, that is a requirement.
So in our requirement, and maybe I've missed it, can you point out where we have the language regarding the fact that traffic calming is going to be installed? Because the reality in residential is 25 miles an hour. As was mentioned, and what I know because I live along the area and I drive different parts of Mount Holly, Huntersville on a daily basis, is that when individuals are cutting through a neighborhood, they are not adhering to 20, 25 miles an hour. So where's the language that ensures the protection of this residential community and/or has commitments regarding traffic calming via speed bumps to make sure they're protected?
I'm not aware of any traffic calming that's built into the proposed road network, but I don't know if CDOT has anything else to share on that, but I'm not aware of any other commitments to traffic calming for the new road network.
So that is something that, while we're looking at updating language and we're looking at community impact, that needs to be taken in consideration because maybe staff has the time, maybe they don't, to actually drive these communities where you are supporting development. But currently in residential neighborhoods, especially single-family neighborhoods, where the speed limit is 20, 25 miles an hour, when we are adding these connectors, that is not how individuals are driving. So just as it was mentioned tonight that you can hear the vehicle, especially down at the roundabout at the other end, it's a mini speedway. It doesn't get as much attention as other parts of the city. Yet the vehicles still utilize these straightways and these connectors through community. So if we're going to say we have a priority around aging in place and staying in place, that means that we also need to have a commitment to ensure that whether it is the petitioner that wants to connect in, or if we're going to mandate the connections, that we have the language in place that actually protects these neighborhoods. Excuse me, Bridget, I don't know if there's an opportunity to speak to your clients, but if we're talking about connecting into residential community, then there has to be some benefits to that community, because unfortunately, traffic patterns today, individuals need a little guidance on how to drive versus what they actually do. And sometimes that means we need to be a little bit more proactive on the front end. So it would be helpful if you can have a conversation and we can follow up.
We'd be happy to have that conversation.
And just for full transparency and acknowledgement, I did make sure to post this on to Nextdoor for the community, so that others will also know that this hearing was happening tonight and how to reach out if they had comments. Because there's a lot of moving parts happening all along Mount Holly Huntersville Road, but it's really just one really good drag road, depending on the morning or the time. But what I can say, just in the last 6 months alone, it can take me anywhere from 8 minutes up to 8 minutes just to make a left turn out of my community.
Oh, wow.
Because of the amount of traffic. So, and that's not even seeing all of the impacts. That's just a few of the lane, going down to one lane because of construction that's happening with all the clearing. And again, there was no notification regarding the police station. I had to go in and look up in the system. and found out that that was something approved at the beginning of 2022, which is great, having a police station, but you just see clear cutting and trucks blocking the road. If it's taking me up to 8 minutes to get out, just to try to make a left turn, this cumulative impact must be a consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Mayfield. Yeah.
Cumulative impact.
Yeah, it's cumulative impact there. So we have to look at this from a policy perspective, and I appreciate you being the eyes and the ears for Mount Holly's, Huntersville, Holly's Road. You talk about it all of the time. And we from a policy perspective, we almost need to look at the trip or the traffic impact study trigger. Maybe it should be lower on 2-lane roads or different areas or areas with less infrastructure, which is why I champion the infrastructure meeting. We really have to start taking a look at this and doing something with the information that we know, right? So I appreciate your coming out, sir. Thank you for advocating for your neighborhood. Thank you for telling us more about the neighborhood. I'll make sure I drive out there before the decision. But, we have to look at when we're implanting these multifamily in established single-family residents. There has to be some consideration. This question is for staff. This petition is inconsistent with the 2040 policy map. Can you explain your rationale for recommendation, please?
Yeah, sure. So one of the items that we talked about was the adjacency of the neighborhood to place type and the continuation of that community and that public street network, providing that kind of alternative routes, like we said, on Mount Holly, Huntersville, that does get you back over to Oakdale. There is also recent entitlements on the other side of that that would provide some neighborhood services. I believe it was upwards of 20,000, I think, square feet of some neighborhood services at a shopping center at the other corner of that Oakdale and Mount Holly, Huntersville. So we did see some services coming to that as well. But those adjacencies and that public street network were two things we looked at, as well as we talked about. I know we talked about getting some dates for when that data is pulled from, but the housing information, the housing gap study that we look at did identify this as an area of need for housing. That was something that we did cite as well. So those were some of the main reasons that we made our recommendation and had our rationale as we did.
Okay, and I'll just say, when I talk about cumulative impact, that's schools and everything, and we, as a council, really have to sit back and think about what's our city going to look like in 10 years from these decisions we're making. Can you provide us with a map, you or Ms. Craig, with the map? I've asked for maps for District 4 areas of the approved by right and pending development within a certain radius for the last 2 years or so. If we could have that for this area also, that would be very helpful so that council can see from a grand scale the changes in this area.
Yep.
Also, how can residents keep up with the development in their area and know what's pending, what's by right, what's approved? Can you give a recommendation?
Yeah, we can certainly produce some maps as requested. I would say the best way for folks to stay plugged in on active projects, development projects, city-related projects, rezonings, the Development Near Me app is really the best way to track that stuff. That's something that is kept up and kind of in live time. You can go in and see what type of project's being built, if it's a new water line or a new subdivision or road improvements, street lighting projects. Those will all be captured in that, and folks can click on the different items and see what those projects are, know who to talk to, and they can reach out and get information on those individually.
Are they able to see an illustration of all of the pending and approved petitions?
Yeah, you open the map up and there's different colors and other things that kind of indicate different types of projects, dots, stars for, different types of things. So you can really see those areas that have been heavily developed or have a lot of, capital investment projects in. They'll have a lot of, different colors and things to click on for folks to learn more about. But yeah, as soon as you open it, you can really get an idea of the type of activity going on.
Okay, thank you. Well, for this petition, I'd like a map for council to be able to take a look at. Thank you.
Certainly.
That's all I have.
Okay. Is there a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
All right, all in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Wright, for coming out. We're going to move on to agenda item number 20, petition number 2025-029 by Summit Avenue, Wellesley Heights LLC. The location is approximately 1.49 acres located north of Freedom Drive, east of Thrift Road, and west of Wellesley Village Road in District 2, Mr. Graham's district. The current zoning is MUD O SPA. Proposed zoning is NCCD. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of requested technical revisions. And after staff's presentation, Ms. Sarah Stewart, you will have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. Petition 2025-029 is located on the north side of Freedom Drive, east of Thrift Road, and west of Wesley Village Road. The site's approximately 1.49 acres and is currently undeveloped. Current zoning is MUD O SPA, Mixed-Use Development District Optional Site Plan Amendment. Proposed zoning is NCCD, Neighborhood Center Conditional. 2040 Policy Map recommends the Neighborhood 2 place type for this site. The NC District is inconsistent with the Policy Map recommendation, and approval of this petition would revise the Policy Map to the Neighborhood Center place type. A little background on the site. A previous MUD O SPA plan proposed the development of a mixed-use building containing 10,000 square feet of retail and 66,000 square feet of office. This proposed plan allows all uses permitted in the NC zoning district with the exception of some automotive-oriented uses such as gas stations, vehicle repair facilities, car washes, car dealerships, etc. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of requested technical revisions, as the site is in a rapidly changing mixed-use area containing a variety of housing types and supporting goods and services. The current MUD O zoning allows intensive office and commercial uses, while the proposed NC zoning district allows for building forms that may be more compatible with the scale of the surrounding area and permits a wide variety of uses while prohibiting auto-centric uses, so that the site may promote walkability and compact development. Happy to take any questions following petitioner's presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Stewart, come on down. And upon your arrival, you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and zoning committee members. I don't really have anything to add to staff's presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of closing the public hearing, raise hands. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you for coming out. We'll move on to agenda item number 21, petition number 2025-036 by Range Works. The location is approximately 1.55 acres located south of Bryant Street, west of South Summit Street, and east of Freedom Drive in District 2, Mr. Graham's district again. Current zoning is NC. Proposed zoning is CGCD. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues and technical revisions related to transportation. After staff's presentation, Mr. Cullen Brown will have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, this petition is located at the corner of Bryant Street and Summit Street. It's approximately 1.55 acres and it's developed as a service parking lot. The current zoning is NC Neighborhood Center and the proposed zoning is CGCD, General Commercial Conditional. 2040 Policy Map recommends the Community Activity Center place type for the site, and the proposed zoning would be consistent with that place type. Proposed plan calls for the development of a driving range and private outdoor recreation facility with a minimum of 36 or maximum of 36 driving bays. The structure would be a maximum of 11,000 square feet and would be open air. The existing surface parking lot would be is proposed to remain underneath this driving facility. The site permits only the land uses of driving range, private outdoor recreation facility, and parking lot as a principal use. Staff recommends the approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues and requested technical revisions related to transportation, as the comprehensive plan calls for the Community Activity Center place type to provide entertainment and open space and mixed-use walkable settings. And the proposed driving range and outdoor recreation facility could advance the goals of providing recreation facilities in the area. I'm happy to take any questions following Mr. Brown's presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, welcome.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, zoning committee members, Colin Brown on behalf of Rangeworks. This is a cool petition. So if you know this area, it is an area that is rapidly changing. My client Rangeworks is working in partnership with the property owner, which is a group named Asana. So here Asana owns the Grinnell Waterworks, which is kind of a historic building, lower level, 1 to 2 story buildings. And as you all know, you're seeing every surface parking lot like this one out there is being replaced by new multifamily housing or something like that. So what Asana is trying to figure out, they need the parking to serve these kind of historic buildings, but how do you monetize this? So this is pretty cool. Rangeworks is a new concept of kind of an urban driving range, more like what you would see in Asia. Literally, you see this in Korea where things are very constricted. And so the idea is the surface parking lot stays there and the structure gets built on top of this. George Mattingly with Rangeworks, if he was here, when I first met him, I said, oh yeah, I did the work for Topgolf when they first came to town. And the first thing he says is, look, we're not Topgolf. And I remember Councilmember Mayfield, we went to Austin to look at Topgolf before they came, and Topgolf is a party. It's lights, it's music, they make their money off food and beverage. That is not what this is. This is for golfers that want a place to play in the city. So it is very much more targeted on that of someone that would come from their office downtown and come out. So here would be a look at this. What you're seeing, this range is actually up, so the parking, surface parking lot stays down there. Grinnell Waterworks has its same parking. And then essentially a steel structure is built on top of that, and then there's just netting. And the only building here is elevated, so there's just hitting base where people come. So it is I think a pretty, you can see the surface parking lot still there on the bottom, building very small, netting. The netting is used, unlike Topgolf, you can see those nets are a long way away. This actually has a roof on the top net, so the poles do not have to be as high. They use the netting, they're gonna use the netting product same as at Major League Baseball, so if you go see a game, you don't even know the net is there. That's the concept. So it works pretty well to serve Asana, so they can kind of keep Grinnell Waterworks, which I think are some of the coolest buildings we have in the area, there and functional, monetize this, but bring in a new use that would serve the community. This is the map I used. We had I know Councilmember Graham is not here tonight. We had good attendance at the official community meeting. The Wesley Heights Community Association invited George and myself out to their meeting last week. You will hear from them. I think it's fair to say they were excited, about a concept that's kind of neighborhood serving. This map I was showing you, that kind of goes downhill, so it's lower. So they were, not concerned about what they'll see for the neighborhood. We're really right up against the ramp here. Got a great view of downtown. So, golfers, that's going to be what they see. The neighborhood will not see much. The neighborhood is excited about this use and frankly about having something new and bright and secure. There are some other, happy to answer questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. How many of these Rangeworks currently exist?
This is a new company. There are several in the works. Charlotte would be the first delivery. If you're in marketing, this is a magic location to be able to bring people there and see that skyline. So very excited. This is the top priority. I will say we do have some modifications to make the plan. We're going to have to, our UDO is a lot of things. Flexible it is not. A little bit of a square peg round hole. So we're going to be working on some modifications. We also have to seek some variances. So it's great that we're not coming to you next month. So we'll be back to you August at the earliest after we've also seen the ZBA.
It's good to hear that the community is excited about it as well. Yeah. Ms. Mayfield.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Brown, we went down this road similarly many years ago with Topgolf, but you say this is not Topgolf. I'm trying to, one of the selling points that made Topgolf great is the fact that it was way out on a lot of land without anything near. So even though it has the netting, the chances of a fly ball hitting anything of significance were slim to none. This in direct opposition in town in a much closer space. So walk me through again how this is a good location for something like this.
Yeah, well, here, I mean, the location is what they're after. They're looking at an urban location where if you, and I know if you're coming from someone who works downtown can come for an hour. If you're coming downtown for another event, kind of part of an entertainment area, folks from the neighborhood can come down. And it's enclosed, and I'm happy to set up a virtual meeting with you and Mr. Mattingly, who's the expert, to talk about it. But you can barely see it on here, but there's a top on it as well. So Topgolf has their pole so high in case someone can hit them over. This will be almost fully enclosed with this Musco is the producer of the netting who does the major league netting. If you've been to a Major League Baseball game, I don't even know there's a net there, but it'll be here and on top as well. And so this is very much the draw, that the idea is this is urban, it is downtown, it's walkable for folks in the neighborhood. You know, there's a lot of residents coming in here, there's a lot of entertainment. Part of that, I mean, you could walk to Panther Stadium from here. So the sell here is very much the location. And I went out there the day, and it's an incredible view. And if you imagine 2 hitting bays looking at the skyline, so that is the sell.
So the hitting bays, just for clarification, they will or it will not be providing food and drink?
They will have very limited. This is probably 1 or 2 employees. There may be a refrigerator.
So it's not going to be the expensive,
No.
like ABC
No.
licensing, a full?
You may get a power drink or power bar.
Okay.
And he says this is for real golfers, that go have fun. They may be there an hour and out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
All right, all in favor of closing public hearing, raise hands. Any opposed? That's unanimous. We'll move on to agenda item number 22, petition number 2025-037 by East Group Properties LP. The location is approximately 1.23 acres located north of Shopton, east of Pinecrest, and west of Beam Road in District 3, Ms. Brown's district. The current zoning is I1CD ANDO and N1A ANDO. Proposed zoning is N1A ANDO and ML1CD ANDO. Staff recommends this petition, and after staff's presentation, we will have Mr. Carmichael. He'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Petition 2025-037 is approximately 1.23 acres located on the north side of Shopton Road, west of Beam Road, and east of Pinecrest Drive. It is surrounded by a previously approved petition on over 100 acres for light industrial development. Current zoning, 2 separate pieces to this rezoning. The western triangular portion is zoned I1CD ANDO. The more rectangular portion to the east is zoned N1A ANDO. Proposed zoning would effectively swap the zoning with the N1A going to ML1CD, the I1CD going to N1ACD. The policy map recommends the manufacturing and logistics place type reflecting the current zoning for the I1CD portion and neighborhood 1 for the N1A portion. So it's a tier 1 rezoning. All uses permitted in the N1A zoning district would be allowed on the western portion. Only a vehicular and truck private driveway connection will be permitted on the eastern portion of the site. Staff recommends approval of petition. It is inconsistent, but would facilitate a more efficient vehicular and truck driveway connection for a previously approved rezoning and light industrial development. The petition will allow for internal connectivity between 2 sides of a light industrial operation, reducing vehicular and truck traffic impacts to Shopton Road. The site is just south of Charlotte Douglas Airport, as well as in the airport noise disclosure overlay. And I'll take any questions following comments from the petitioner.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, members of the zoning committee. I'm John Carmichael on behalf of East Group Properties, and with me tonight is Ms. Felicia Reddick with East Group Properties. Joe did a really good job going through many of the details, so I'll try not to be too repetitive. But the site is just northeast of Shopton Road, and it's just east of the intersection of Pinecrest and Shopton Road, and then further to the west is Shopton Road and Sandy Porter Road. But this is an aerial photograph. The site is here, and then you can see East Group is developing these 2 properties here. as Joe said, there is an existing zoning of I-1CD, A&DO that encircles the site. Y'all may or may not recall that that site was rezoned by the airport some years ago, and then East Group purchased that property. East Group is developing a light industrial business park on the northern portion here and then the southern portion here. And so this parcel here to the west is currently zoned I-1CD, and then this parcel is zoned N1A. And so what's happening here is the petitioner is requesting that the western portion of the site that's currently zoned N1A be rezoned to, zone I-1CD, the western portion be rezoned from I-1CD to N1A, and this eastern portion be rezoned from N1A to ML1CD. And what would happen is this parcel would be incorporated into the existing N1A site, the western parcel. The eastern parcel would be incorporated into the light industrial development. And so the property owner here has agreed to that, and East Group has agreed to that, and the property owner we're doing the land swap with would get a little more land. And so, as Joe alluded to, the purpose of this request is to facilitate a land swap between the owners of two adjacent parcels of land, one of whom is the petitioner. As I mentioned, the light industrial business park is being developed by the petitioner to the north and to the south, and this land swap would allow for a more efficient and effective private vehicular connection between the northern portion of the industrial park and the southern portion of the industrial park. The only uses that would be allowed on the portion that's being rezoned from N1A to ML1CD would be the driveway connection, and then pedestrian improvements, open space, tree-safe landscaping, and buffers. So no vertical improvements, just horizontal. So it's a land swap between two property owners, but they need to rezone each parcel to effectuate the land swap. And I've probably done a poor job of explaining that, but here again, the key is you've got industrial park being developed all around here, and then we're doing that land swap. Happy to answer questions if that's clear as mud.
Thank you. I know you shared that with me in one of our meetings as well, so I know it's a little bit of a mouthful there. Any questions? Ms. Molina?
So I'm actually peeking at the former District 3 rep over there to ask for some context, because I know, so I'll start with my questions, right? That did sound a bit confusing, so I can't even imagine what a resident listening might be thinking.
Well, let me show you this. So this is, yeah, and it's hard to describe. So can you see this, Councilmember?
I can see.
The site is here.
Okay.
That square and that kind of box or rectangular, I don't know what the geometric shape is named officially, but East Group, we rezoned this for East Group some years ago, and they're developing that. All this was rezoned by the airport. You see these buildings here?
So, just to be clear, I heard you say that there was a residential ask in here?
Right. See,
Okay.
this is zoned N1A.
Okay.
This is currently zoned residential, and there's an industrial park, once again, being developed around these two parcels. This parcel here is part of the airport rezoning. It's currently zoned I-1CD. This parcel is zoned N1A. It's part of this residential lot. So what's happened is East Group and this property owner have agreed to swap these portions of their parcels. But to do that, the industrial, the parcel that's currently zoned industrial needs to be rezoned to N1A so it could be incorporated into this gentleman's residential lot. And then the residentially zoned property owned by the neighbor needs to be rezoned to ML1CD and then incorporated into the industrial site.
So, in other words, you're talking about two transactions. One is a land swap that's totally separate and apart from this process.
Well, we need to rezone it to effectuate the land swap because the residential owner wants to use it for residential purposes, and East Group wants to use it for what they would get for industrial
So there's a
purposes.
contingency on the approval of the petition in order for there to be a proper land swap.
Exactly.
So what my question then becomes is, are these conditional?
So, yes. So the ML1CD would only be limited to horizontal improvements, the driveway connection,
Okay.
landscaping, buffers, pedestrian improvements, open space. So that area here could only be horizontal improvements, landscaping buffers, the drive connection.
Okay.
the part that's going to be rezoned to residential could be used for any use allowed in N1A. So we didn't condition the uses in the single-family district.
Okay. But they are conditioned on the...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah, so we can't do any vertical improvements here.
okay,
And that was to protect this property owner too.
right, okay. And I wish there was a way to just, I guess for anybody who would be watching, especially if you live in the district, because the district rep is not here.
Right.
So I imagine, and I see that you had some participation.
We
and I know
had
you're really
three
good at that,
people at the
so-
neighborhood meeting. We had Mr. Kent Main, who y'all may remember worked for the city's planning department. He
Okay.
lives in, Joe, it's Eagle, and that
Lake?
Eagle Lake,
Okay.
which is right by, Eagle Lake is right. So Eagle Lake is over here.
Okay,
So Kent came, and then two other area residents came who live or have property. I don't want to say they live, they have property across Shopton Road. But really, if you look at the surrounding owners, other than the person that East Group's contracting with, I think the other adjoining property owners are the airport property that East Group has purchased. Because it's really kind of buried in here.
okay, okay.
But it wouldn't increase the density, obviously, of the industrial. It wouldn't have any effect in terms of density or extra, building space or anything like that.
Okay, okay. No, that's really all I had, just to make sure that I,
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not as readily apparent if you just say it verbally.
okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor Pro Tem.
Ms. Mayfield?
Thank you. Staff, question. Based on the conversation that we just heard, if we move forward, the land swap happens and it goes back to residential, some form. Based on everything that is approved around it, because of the way the airport has purchased and created manufacturing logistics, according to our 2040 plan, would you all recommend residential that is literally sandwiched with manufacturing all around it?
Typically, no, but in this case, it's almost like a one-for-one trade. So we're not really introducing additional N1 zoning into a manufacturing logistics area.
David, go ahead.
It's-
You're making your way.
It's already-
Okay, but do you understand my question?
Yeah,
Based on what was just shared and the map that we looked at, where manufacturing is all around, and we've left this little parcel where it's just, if the swap happens, which is one part of the conversation, and that new residential, we almost had it.
Go ahead. I didn't touch it.
Yeah, no, I was,
I know you didn't. But
you could have left it up.
that seemed like, that's not the one, the other one was a better one that you were sharing, John. But when you look at that and knowing what airport has rezoned all around it, I'm trying to understand the logic of why would we even have a conversation about potentially identifying more of N1A when none of that should be developed for housing based on its current location, our CAP, environmental impacts, and being surrounded by manufacturing and logistics. Yes,
So-
this one.
Yeah, so it's this one here. So it's, as Joe had mentioned, it's really just a one-for-one swap. His N1 property extends all the way back to here right now. So this is zoned for residential, this back piece. This piece is what's zoned for industrial. So in order to actually get this residential piece a little bit further away from the industrial, they've agreed to this land swap. But in order for it to work, we've got to go through this exercise of rezoning. So as Joe had mentioned, we're not really introducing any additional residential space, and I don't think the folks that are here have any real intention of doing anything other than getting themselves a little bit further removed and a little bit more space away from any industrial development by just effectuating this land swap. So it's not introducing anything necessarily new. It's really kind of helping facilitate this agreement between the two property owners that are saying, hey, let's work together here because the space that we want is better for us, and the space that we want to give you is probably better for you to protect you from some of that industrial, encroachment. So they've agreed to that swap to kind of both insulate themselves a little bit better than they currently are.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a different question. Let's say, fast forward, swap has been done. This swath that now is zoned M1A for housing, you're saying that in our 2040 plan, that will be consistent with having housing be developed right there when it is surrounded by manufacturing and logistics, knowing that we have a CAP plan, environmental controls, and other potential environmental challenges, we would approve housing there?
So if we can go back to our presentation and pull up the comp plan exhibit. So the comp plan, I think, already identifies the property owner's parcel as neighborhood 1. Yeah, so essentially, this is the manufacturing piece that is looking to be swapped. So they're inconsistent because they're both representing the current zoning. So essentially, that inconsistency then really makes this yellow and this purple and is kind of that one-for-one swap. But right now, you could build a house all the way back to here, and if this rezoning were to go through, you could still do that. It would just be potentially on this piece. So when we looked at it, again, we didn't really look at it as introducing more. We're just kind of flipping the two areas where it's mapped.
So this goes back to the comment I made earlier regarding impact. Looking at this one map, it shares one version, but we're not having an accurate conversation. Because what we know is that the airport has purchased and rezoned the land all around this one little piece. And if we're talking about that eventually, whether it's 6 months from now, 8 weeks from now, 4 years from now, that potentially residential can go in this area based on what we may do tonight to just swap these two pieces, that would be a complete disservice to know that someone would then be able to come in and put in a proposal for some type of residential in that area, knowing that we potentially have environmental impacts over there. That is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, and I understand.
Look at long-term and stop looking at piecemeal.
Yeah.
Because just this one piece looks like, okay, that will make sense to give them the chance to switch it out. But the bigger concern is the bigger concern for me is the M1A piece of it, because we've already approved multiple things that are immediately surrounding it. So why would we then open the door for potential house? That's just like saying that it's in the airport noise overlay, but we're going to approve housing when we told everybody else you need to sell because it's an airport noise overlay.
And again, I think our main view of it was that could happen on this piece today and not this piece. If the rezoning went through, it could happen on this piece tomorrow and not that piece. So it's again, we looked at it straight as a swap between two property owners that were agreeing to it. They would be in control and ownership of the property, and whether or not a future house was built in this location or this location, they're both going to be still, in this area of industrial zoning around it. There's office zoning here, but we didn't really look at it as more or less impactful. It was almost kind of one negates the other. So,
Okay, thank you. Move it closer here.
Thank you. So, Mr. Pettin, I believe Ms. Reddick is here. She might be able to add some light
Only if
to.
I was asking a question. I'll follow up.
Say that again?
I wasn't asking an additional question.
You didn't want an additional question? Okay, I just wanted to make sure you knew that she was here. Okay. We have a motion to close public hearing and second. All in favor, raise hands.
Move to adjourn.
Thank
Oh,
you.
We have one more.
Oh, we got another one.
more,
Yes,
so-
we have one more.
I know that's right, Ed. Let me.
Yeah, okay, that was unanimous, clerk, for the closing of agenda number 22.
Anyway?
Thank you, Mr. Carmichael. I think Mr. Gross would be a little bit upset by that
I
now.
know.
We will move on to our final agenda item, number 23, petition number 2025-038 by Long Valley II, LLC. The location is approximately 7.76 acres located north of Forest Point Circle, east of Forest Point Boulevard, and south of West Arrowhead in District 3, Ms. Brown's district. The current zoning is BD/CD. Proposed zoning is OFC. Staff recommends the approval of this petition, and after staff's presentation, Mr. Gross will have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Petition 2025-038 is located on Forest Point Circle, just kind of southeast of the intersection of West Arrowwood and I-77. The property is zoned BD/CD, distributive business, conditional. The proposed zoning is OFC, Office Flex Campus, which is a conventional zoning district. 2040 policy map recommends the manufacturing and logistics place type. The OFC district is inconsistent, and this rezoning would revise the policy map to the campus place type. This is a conventional rezoning petition. There's not an associated site plan and would permit any use allowed in the OFC zoning district. Staff recommends approval of this petition as the site is surrounded by properties developed as office uses, and the proposed OFC zoning district is compatible with the existing uses, and there are several adjacent properties zoned OFC. Happy to take any questions following Mr. Gross's presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Gross?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council and the Zoning Committee. Nolan Gross with Urban Design Partners, representing the petitioner, Long Valley 2 LLC. Max was very thorough in his presentation. As he mentioned, this is a conventional request, so I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of closing public hearing, raise hands.
Can I try again?
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
Move to adjourn.
To adjourn.
All right. All in favor of going home, please do so. Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good one, babe.